Endless Backlog.
I need a moment of silence starting now.
Moment of silence for what little integrity Nintendo
What the
had.
fuck is wrong with you? We do this every podcast, yet you still decided to talk before I said let's talk.
Yo, moment of silence for how stupid that name is.
Welcome to episode 67 of the Endless Backlog Podcast, the #1 amateur hour podcast, as cited by me, your host, your beacon of truth, Gagandeep Singh. Hope all is well where you are. Joining me today is Benjamin Minkoff.
All is well where I am. I have
pizza.
pizza.
Yeah. What kind of pizza?
It's just cheese pizza.
Sicilian slice, Neapolitan?
Plain as pizza.
Bro, you should know the style. Like, there's Brooklyn thin crust, there's Sicilian.
Yeah, it's a thin crust. It's a New York slice.
Yeah. There you go. You gotta remind people that you're eating God's pizza.
God's pizza. That's right.
Also, here's Christopher Compton.
We have like a Pizza Hut down the street. That's okay.
Do you like Pizza Hut?
I love Pizza Hut. That's the closest thing we have to like good pizza.
You need to leave whatever hellhole you live in.
Toronto, Canada?
No, London, Canada.
Oh, yeah, he lives in London, Canada.
Oh my god.
Pizza Hut, my thing with... like,
can't even decide what country you're in.
The poverty. London.
I've gotten to a point where I've become a little bit more accepting of chain pizza as a thing, right? Because, whatever. But my thing with Pizza Hut always was sometimes their pizza is just so greasy. In a way that it shouldn't be.
Can taste those clogged arteries.
Yeah, like you could just feel your arteries dying. I mean, you can still feel your arteries dying when you're eating like a New York slice. Let's not get carried away. They're greasy. But
yeah.
It's like a different brand of grease, I feel like.
It's not like soggy grease.
Yeah.
There's a quality to the grease, if you will.
Yeah.
They put some extra time into that grease.
The grease on
Only
the New
the
York
best grease.
The grease on the New York pizza comes off like it's more oily in its nature. Like you'll see the drips come off a bit.
Oh, the drip.
Whereas like the pizza itself feels like it was glazed in grease when it's a Pizza Hut pizza.
Yeah. But Pizza Hut pizzas have stuffed crust.
Yeah,
so.
stuffed crust is basically like the greatest invention. They added bacon to one of them apparently.
Yeah, bacon stuffed crust? Yeah. Wild. The times we live in.
Yeah, like the heart attack culture we live in. And rounding us out is William Berger.
Yo, what's up?
This is basically like default podcast crew at this point, right?
This is pretty much the crew. I think we can, Chris is still, but I think we can count the episodes that me, Ben, and you have not been on one hand, probably. Maybe two.
I mean, we can count the podcasts I have not been on one finger, and that was because I destroyed my ankle. I needed surgery. But yeah, Phil retired because he's always busy. Mm-hmm. / he needs me to always give him some lead time, and I never give him lead time. And then he's like, it's funny though, because he's like, so I didn't need to not be on podcast. You just need to tell me in advance. I'm like, honestly, bro, it's pretty like spur of the moment. It's usually, I get my schedule for Carrabba's usually depending when Allie puts them up. And then as soon as they're up, I'm like, all right, I'm free Tuesday. Who's free Tuesday? And then this past week, I was like, I need to do Thursday.
You told me...
And the rest of us all kind of like try to figure out what's going to work.
Yeah.
You told me like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Today?
Well, no, because you knew last week. I said last week we're going to
I mean, to be fair, he posted a big thing about it on Saturday. So.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, I mean...
I remember it because Skype, it was the only thing on Saturday, and Skype timestamps that shit.
Skype dies on the weekend, our Skype. Oh my god.
I like to put that as, well, it makes sense. Like, we're all out on the weekend. Yeah. I'm working at the restaurant most of the day. Ben has plans on the weekends because when he's stuck at home for Monday through Friday because of his job, he's like, fuck this place.
I'm usually out in the city.
Yeah, you're out. William actually gets a chance to enjoy New York City and not suffer grad school bullshit.
Mm-hmm. It's nice.
You know,
I know trick-or-treating.
Ricky is probably hungover from the night before.
Always.
Yeah, so, you know, the only one still home is Wazdi, and ain't no one trying to listen to Wazdi, bitch.
Yo, it's so funny. Sometimes I come back and it's like, 200 messages, and it's just Wazdi.
Wazdi complaining about something, and I'm like, Wazdi, you don't need to buy Fallout 4. Like, let it go.
It's like the funniest thing.
Some people just have to know.
Yeah, seriously.
Some
And they have to let
know what
everybody
Fallout
else
4
know,
is like.
too.
Yeah, those of us that bought it knew what we were getting into.
Yeah, like...
So you bought Fallout 4?
No, I didn't.
Not yet, though, right? You're getting it, aren't you?
I don't know, it's dropping below that 85.
You're such a scumbag.
Came
Anyway.
close.
Maximum integrity from
This is
Chris.
like actually rooting for this. It's like, God damn it, not another long game. Come on, fall to 84. Fall to
Honestly.
84.
Bethesda won't get their quality bonus if they fall below 85.
They don't need it.
Yeah.
Currently sitting at an 87, which is probably too high.
Yeah, I would
It's
agree.
close. That's the closest, a Bethesda game's ever been.
Do
Yeah,
any of
they've
us
never-
have Fallout 4?
None of us bought that game. No.
Nope.
Huh.
I believe the closest... I was of the opinion the closest one to us that wants to buy Fallout 4 is Chris, and even that sounds like I kind of don't want to get it.
I haven't even played Skyrim.
Yeah, my mentality of it is this. Not only the fact that I don't like Bethesda games, but, like, I have Witcher 3, I got done with Bloodborne this year, I still need to play Monster Hunter 4, I still need to play Pillars of Eternity, I still need to play Shadowrun. As far as I'm concerned, I'm set on the RPG.
And you beat Metal Gear Solid 5, which was huge.
Like 90 hours long.
That was a big fucking game.
And I still want to have time in this world to play the Rocket League we play, which cuts into my gaming time. I still am actively enjoying Halo multiplayer. And, like, multiplayer itself, like, you know, if you don't play it for a week, you get rusty. And, you know, that's
Then it's
fine.
hard to get back on the horse.
Like, Splatoon I almost don't even want to go back to now because we haven't played it in so long. It takes a weird adjustment period for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe, for me, like, I'm just not super into Bethesda style of game. Though, I mean, I haven't really given them a chance since Morrowind, so maybe I'm being unfair.
Wow.
I remember trying to play Skyrim and being disappointed, so you're not missing anything bad.
oh,
Yeah.
I have Skyrim.
I have Skyrim, and that's
I'm
my
also,
other thing. I'm like,
I'm also
if
just very reluctant to get into RPGs these days.
Yeah. But we're going to actually try to get through our topics relatively... Listen, podcast listeners, we're lying when we're saying relatively quickly, but...
We're going as fast as we
Trust
can.
us. It's usually our goal to be done with these in an hour. I hope you understand how bad we've been at that goal.
So,
Literally
We're at a 0% success rate.
Literally
Something happened
every
today.
time.
Yeah.
If we were a AAA game, Chris would not even consider. Our Metacritic average would be really low on that front.
Yeah.
0.
that's true.
0.
rate us highly on iTunes and bring your average up.
Yeah. Rate us high on-
We count on your user reviews to
we count on
remain
the user
relevant.
score. But okay, we'll start
User
things
score.
off. The big thing that happened today, of the day we're recording this podcast,
So 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, with the way I've been putting these up. No, that's the other thing. I have not helped us out because I've been like swamped at work, which is really annoying because I count on that break during work to actually get some of the podcast quote unquote editing in. Yeah.
Anyway.
And it's been a pain in the ass, so anyway. Nintendo had a direct today, and there were certain announcements, and then there were non-announcements, and there were things that were said. I want to do a brief rundown. I don't want to spend too much time on it personally. Twilight Princess is being remastered for the Wii U.
And it looks like the GameCube version.
It looks like the GameCube version in more ways than one. Twilight Princess, I think it's a good Zelda. I like the dungeons in that game. I was pretty adamant when we were doing best character. Were we doing best character or was it best female character?
I think Midna was on best female character.
Did we actually differentiate?
Did we
I don't
actually? That's
think
what
we
I'm
did.
thinking. I was like, I don't think we did. Yeah,
Doesn't seem like something we do.
yeah. I was like,
I don't know.
I think my
Maybe
whole
we did.
mentality behind that was like, no, like that's part of the problem. If you're doing male and female, you're sort of part
Right.
of the problem there. No, yeah,
Anyway.
Midna, but we
Did she place on that list or?
Yes, yeah, Midna
She
went
was
over.
like 9th or something.
Midna
right?
was the thing we got because Phil wouldn't have Bayonetta, and it's like, fine, whatever. I like Midna enough. Although his reasoning for not wanting Bayonetta still sucks. Anyway, Midna's cool. That game has really good dungeons. I just think that, creatively speaking, it might be. I would say it's in the running for one of the weaker Zeldas, creatively speaking.
3D or all together?
In general, in general, I don't think the 2D ones. I don't think that makes sense because all of them were experimental after a certain point, right? Like the Oracle games do something bizarre for Zelda. Minish Cap is the whole idea of that game is a little out there. Everything they do with Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, they're not good games. Like they're not a pimple on Twilight Princess's ass, but you know what I mean. But like they were different. Whereas Twilight Princess was, what if we did Ocarina of Time but bigger and a wolf?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the safest Zelda they've made.
I think it's ironic because it's what everybody asked for all those years. Like, let's make another one. And I'm guilty of being one of those people. Like, let me have another one like Ocarina of Time. And then I finally got it. And Gagan and I have had this discussion before where it's like you get there and then like, especially if you play Ocarina beforehand, it just really takes the wind out of the sails for Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
I still think it's a really good game, but it just...
Yeah. Well, I think the other problem...
what's happening with Zelda?
That's it. That's what they announced. They're doing that. They made DLC for Hyrule Warriors, or that was the 3DS game they were talking about?
I think it's a 3DS game.
It's a 3DS game.
So they made Hyrule Warriors
Legends
for 3DS. I'm not a Dynasty Warriors person, but according to Will, if you're a Dynasty Warriors person, Hyrule Warriors is one of the better one of those.
It is.
And absolutely. They added a female Link character with one of the greatest video game names of all time.
And I know Chris is dying to talk about it.
I thought that the stream like skipped when he said it. He's like, and her name Linkle, and I was like, what the fuck did he just say? And he kept saying it, and I was like, oh my god, this is how the world ends with Linkle. Like, say Linkle with the straight face, you can't even do it. It's the stupidest name ever. It's like a 3-year-old. It's like, hey, I need to have a female version of Link. What should I call it? Let's call it, like, Link L? Perfect! So stupid.
I mean, you could have done, like, any of a number of, like, feminizing tropes on the name, and they all would have been better. That's the worst part.
Maybe there's some connection with Tinkle that we don't.
It sounds like Tinkle.
Tinkle, yeah.
So here's my question:
Bulimpa.
do you associate the word Link with a male name? Like, if you were giving that to a name, would you naturally assume it's a dude's name? Yeah. No. Like, I don't look at that. I feel like that name actually could work for a chick.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think
they just feel like they have to differentiate it for.
Yeah, I get that. But I feel like, for instance, like Fire Emblem, if you're Awakening, doesn't matter who the created character is. He's always a Robin, because Robin is, I felt like Link would technically work that way. What's the word for that when the name can be both a boy and a girl? There's a word for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking androgynous, but probably not.
It's gender neutral. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's gender neutral. Yeah.
Link is a character in The Matrix.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Link would work as a female name, but I think it's like what Ben said, where they feel that they have to differentiate because,
especially because so many people have problems with Link being the guy in the game.
But that, whatever.
But Link, just call her a different name. Call her anything else.
Yeah.
You don't have to name her after Link. She could.
Yeah, just call her Jimmy.
But then maybe people might miss that she was a female Link design. I don't know.
I could have just named her like I don't know.
I mean, I guess like starting from that point is already kind of weak, but
but whatever. What are you?
Where we?
Other than that, if you were wondering if they shared any information on Legend of Zelda for Wii U, the only information they shared was that it is confirmed again that they are aiming for 2016 release. They have not outright announced that it's going to be an NX game like Twilight Princess was. But I do think all the signs are pointing to it's going to be a Twilight Princess scenario. Whether or not it will be day and date.
No.
Why do you say no?
I feel like it will come out like early. That is an early 2017 game, I feel. And I don't think a console would launch early anything.
You think? You think the consoles are absolutely holiday systems?
Always holiday systems, and I feel like it's not going to come out late 2016.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to come out in like summer.
Well, don't handhelds come out?
I feel like handhelds
are a little more flexible, I think.
Yeah, I guess
But-
that's true.
But yeah, I also don't think the NX is a 2016 console.
Yeah,
Could be wrong, but
we'll see.
I mean, they've already apparently been showing stuff off, but I think they're gonna start teasing it next year, like actual
E3, and then 2017.
I can see it
2017 is the
2017.
huge big reveal with the games and stuff.
But why? We just saw from the Xbox and PlayStation, they just basically announced them in March, gassed them up at E3 of that year, which would be June, and they were out in November.
I mean,
And
I think the difference is that like people were really, really excited about next gen systems, and we'd been talking about it for a long time, just as like an industry. Like, when are we going to get new consoles? When are we going to get new consoles? So like the excitement was there, so you don't need to market it that heavily. Whereas like with the NX, I don't think the demand is there as much. I hope it does well, but I don't think like it has that intrinsic amount of excitement. You're going to have to build it up before you release it.
Or what happened to the Wii U could actually work as its advantage, and people thinking, oh, this is the new console. There was the Wii, there was the expansion pack Wii U, and this is their actual new console.
Yeah.
You laugh, but it's kind of true. Like, I mean, there were people who were into video games that were like, what? That's a new console or an add-on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the forums reacting that way, and the forums are like, you know. I mean, I thought it was weird because I always felt like, yeah, no, that's their new console. But whatever. Like, there was that type of reaction to it. Otherwise...
There is one other piece of news about Zelda Wii U.
What's that?
The Wolf Link amiibo they announced for Twilight Princess HD is also going to be compatible with Zelda Wii U.
Yeah,
Oh,
and some sort of
crap.
data from Twilight Princess is going to carry over, but they would not say what it was.
It's the Wolf Goggin. Are you
Do
ready?
you think it's a sequel to Twilight Princess, assuming they're buying into the... Because Skyward Sword was the first Zelda that I feel actively acknowledges the timeline. Right? Because it's basically the origin story.
Right. I mean,
I don't think it... I mean, what do you mean by sequel? Do you mean like direct sequel or...
like a direct sequel. Yeah, why wouldn't it be? Think about
Or
it.
like 100 years later kind of sequel?
Whatever sequel. It's going to be a sequel to like that timeline in some way.
Majora's Mask was a sequel
Yeah,
to
Majora's
Ocarina,
Mask
so-
was a direct sequel, whereas like
Yeah.
because when I'm looking at the Zelda, it's already in Hyrule. Like, it's not going to be an ocean or a sky again, right? So that's the example. I mean, that's literally the
But,
only
I
example.
mean, the ocean drains at the end of Wind Waker.
The ocean what?
The ocean like goes away.
not at the end of Wind Waker, it doesn't.
What?
Whereas at the end of...
It's the end of a dream you had.
at the end
You
of
might
Phantom
be
Hour.
thinking of one of the DS
I mean,
games, but
isn't Spirit Tracks also on that same timeline?
It's part of that
Yes.
same timeline, yeah.
yes,
And that's like a train going on land everywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Phantom Hourglass, that's what happens in that game?
Yeah.
I don't know. Those games suck, so... You know.
I mean,
I
but
don't
you're right.
acknowledge their
You're
existence.
right.
You might be right. I think that might actually be a storyline. What a stupid storyline! So the water goes away?
Like,
I mean,
honestly,
I don't know.
don't
I
care
just-
where it is in the timeline. It doesn't really matter to me.
Right, but I mean, you know, I think
I
that would
think,
be
like,
interesting.
Twilight Princess is like, not to get into like the intricacies of Zelda lore because it's stupid to get into that shit, but like, I think it's the only place you can kind of go if you want to make a sequel, unless they're making like an in-between game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm getting tired of the weird thing. I mean, I don't even remember the timeline itself. I have general ideas. I know that it's like 3 timelines. There's a dead Link timeline. There's a living Link time from Ocarina. And then there's the Link who gets turned into a kid and thrown back into his time, which is Majora's Mask.
Yes,
Right.
and then Twilight Princess.
And whatever. Yeah, but that's the only other things out there. Well, I asked that question specifically because he just brought up the wolf thing. I'm like, if it's a sequel, you know, that
Yeah.
could be interesting. Because it would be the first full-fledged sequel they've done. Like, what if it brings back Midna?
Well, I mean, Majora's Mask is a sequel.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, a full-fledged... Like, Majora's Mask is a game they sort of crapped out in a year.
It's true. I mean, yeah. Well,
that was the
what
rush
about-
job of rush jobs.
Well, I mean, actually, technically, wouldn't that be a Link Between Worlds?
Link Between Worlds isn't a rush job. No way.
No,
but
but it's a
it's a
full.
sequel.
Oh yeah, full-fledged sequel. Yeah, that one, I guess, yeah. So
No.
It would be a pretty interesting sequel in the sense that from what we've seen, they could change it, but the art style looks pretty
different.
different.
It looks more like
Skyward Sword.
Sword, yeah. Which is, I mean, the art style was one of the positives about that game. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I thought the problem with Skyward Sword, it was like this weird sort of like in between of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, whereas this like, all right, what if we just like double down on making it cartoony? I don't have a better word for it, but you know,
Cell shaded.
yeah. Well, cell shaded's technically wrong too, and you know,
It's
we
more
use pixel-
watercolor than cell
yeah,
shading.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
either
well,
way, I think colorful Zelda is perfectly fine. I don't, you know, my thing with all of these has always been like as long as the art style fits the tone of the game,
Yeah.
it's fine. I think the problem with Skyward Sword is people recognize that it has a lot of color, but I feel like it didn't add to the experience, right? Whereas Wind Waker's art style adds to the experience. It's not just that the game looks pretty; it's that everything about the way that game is toned. The whole like feel of that game is this like light, breezy, fun adventure. That's why it's easy as sin to boot. Like that game being easy works for me on some level because it's like yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's got that whimsical feeling to it.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, Twilight Princess being so easy was like, so they made it grainy and dark, and Midna's entire storyline is actually kind of like unsettling at times, but it's the easiest fucking Zelda I've played ever.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like
mean-
I don't want the blades to bleed or anything like that, but you know,
I mean, you know, I think I don't know. Like Skyward Sword is actually a pretty dark, like game thematically when you think about
yeah,
it.
there's an aspect of Zelda's always had like a weird poetry vibe to it. I've always felt like.
Yeah, I mean, but like you know, like these characters are cursed to keep repeating the same story
Yeah,
over
yeah,
and over again. But
Anyway, enough with Zelda.
yeah,
Let's move on. Star Fox has a release date. It
Ooh.
will be part of our. It will be coming out April of 2016. I think it was the 22nd. I'm not fact checking this because lazy. But
the 22nd or the 26th,
something like that. But that now puts it in the same month as Dark Souls 3, Quantum Break, and Total War Warhammer, which is a pretty. I bring that up because, as we've been pointing out the last couple of podcasts, that Q1 seems like. Well, I mean, April is Q2, but that first stretch of the year now feels like what we were used to from the holidays, right? Back when we were kids. Like,
Right.
that's become the new headline period.
Yeah, like this is a pretty solid. That's a pretty good April.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's coming off
That's
of,
just,
like...
that's just what we know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming off of February that has XCOM 2, the Gravity Rush remaster, Street Fighter 5, the new Far Cry, Star Ocean. We have Uncharted 3 during that time span. The Witness is
Uncharted 4.
coming out. That's I just said Uncharted, didn't I?
So Uncharted 3.
Uncharted 4, I'm sorry. Yeah, Uncharted 4. Hitman or whatever the hell they're doing with Hitman is coming out.
December, yeah.
Yeah, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, I think, is
It's still February. Yeah.
February, yeah. I think
God.
that's...
God. So glad I'm a supply teacher next
It's a feast of a
semester.
month.
Yeah. Like we're gonna get fed. If you feel like you've been hungry during this holiday season, you're gonna get fed.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. God.
if you have, you know, between Metal Gear Solid 5 and, you know, everything else, and now Fallout, if you feel like you're deprived in terms of hours of gaming.
Yeah. Like
Here it
you're gonna
comes.
get fed. Otherwise, they showed footage for games that are coming out the rest of this year, like Xenoblade and Mario Tennis. I mean, whatever. That I feel
Mario
like
Tennis?
I personally feel you are padding your thing if you're showing games that are coming out in less than a month. But whatever, that's the whole point of these things.
Mm-hmm.
The 3DS is getting some new JRPGs. It's getting the sequel to Bravely Default. It's getting a Final Fantasy Explorer,
Yeah,
which
that's what it's called.
looks like the job system of Final Fantasy V. I think it's a weird thing like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, except not a party.
Huh.
Because it looked like a single player game, like a single character game to me. But you get to play as like all the heroes of Final Fantasy.
Lightning
Right.
is there.
Okay.
Right.
Like, I mean, they gassed up Lightning. And I'm like, no one cares about Lightning like this. No.
Far
Yeah.
more people care about Lightning than
Although they showed
I believe.
Squall, and I was like, do people like Squall that much?
There's
Squall
always
is terrible.
there's a fan base for everyone.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I feel like when I think of like the character everyone loves for Final Fantasy, it's sadly Cloud Strife, right? But you cannot find me a person that I feel like likes Squall like that.
Should be Auron.
It's
Yeah.
because Squall is a shitty person
I mean,
and a character too.
He's dead
Um,
anyways. Doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's true. He's dead.
And Fire Emblem is also coming out in February.
Fire Emblem is coming out in February.
All
Oh,
three of
fuck!
them.
Yeah.
All 9 versions.
Yeah. So there's
3 versions.
3 versions. There's whatever. There's 2 versions and a third DLC thing, right? Which is all part of one singular story. But my understanding of the games is this: one of them is Waifu Emblem. For
Yes,
the
that's-
people that really liked all the streamlining they did in Awakening.
That's the one I want for sure.
There's the other one, which I don't think isn't necessarily Waifu Emblem. It still is, but it's more for the people that bitched that Awakening was streamlined. Anyway, and in their case, I think that's more ideal for them.
You get that one.
Yeah, my problem with that is there's supposed to be some story beats you miss out on, which, whatever, I guess I don't care about video game stories, but I would imagine there's someone like me that likes the gameplay things I like about Fire Emblem, but still wants all of the story.
Wants a context for it.
Yeah, and that person will probably want to consume all the Fire Emblem. If they're American, it costs $80 to do that. If
To get the
they're
special edition with all.
Well,
yeah.
if this the special edition, you can get both of them for 60 if you
$60,
buy one
yeah.
physically and then you buy the other digitally. And the special edition does come with like an art book and other stuff. So
yeah, but
it's
then
not
you still
just-
got to buy the third thing.
You get a pouch.
The third
for
thing
your-
is free.
yes.
The third thing is free?
Third thing is free, unless
Okay.
I'm completely misunderstanding. It's just that the
It doesn't
collector's edition
say what the cost
comes with
Okay,
a
so
physical copy of
So
it, where
$60
otherwise,
so $60 will get me two of them. The
Yes.
two.
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
Did they say that during the direct or like
They
was
did,
that-
yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear him write down on that one because I was like, they are charging more than $60 for both of these. This is ridiculous. Yeah, whatever. I don't want the digital.
It's still a little.
Yeah, I
Lucky
don't like
you guys.
Yeah, and then in Chris's case, because I do need to point this out, Chris is Canadian, and if you're Canadian, you guys are paying $120 if you want like physical box copies of the 2 Fire Emblems.
It's
And
not-
I still think the third part is digital in your case. Like, I don't think the third part would be physical.
I don't know if it would actually be $120, but it'd be close. It'd be 100 probably.
That's absurd, though.
Yeah.
That is a
Dude,
ridiculous
a
amount.
new game is $84 with
Right?
tax. Like, taxes included. But
Like-
yeah, new game is $84.
Right? Like, Pokemon has been an easier pill to swallow because you can effectively play just one of them and you're good.
Yeah, you just
the-
miss out on Pokemon. Who cares?
Yeah, like, you put out on Pokemon, and thanks to the greatest creation ever, the internet, or, back in the day, as long as your friend got the other copy, right?
Or your younger
It was
sister.
like, it was still a little annoying, but like altogether, like, come on, you could find ways to work around Pokemon. This is more of a difficult pill to swallow.
It's 2 different games.
Yeah, and on some level, it is 2 different games, and that's irritating. Other than that, Fire Emblem is a good series, so I can't realistically say that I'll skip it.
I'll get one of them.
I wasn't the highest person on Awakening. I still thought it was a good game, though. I still played the shit out of it. I think it's, if it wasn't for Pokemon Y, it would be my longest played 3DS game in terms of
What a
hours.
loser.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take
he's not proud of that.
take your favorite characters into the bedroom and touch their faces?
No.
He did that with Pokemon Y.
Yeah. I went to Pokemon A, B. I had to get those ribbons, man. Anyway. What else was there for
The two
3DS?
big
There was Final
announcements.
Fantasy,
Sick announcement
Dragon
for
Quest.
Smash Brothers.
Right. Okay.
Oh.
So Cloud Strife's in Smash Brothers.
That's what
Why?
broke the internet.
But
Yeah.
see, the crazy thing is, they're having a Smash-specific Direct in December, and that was the teaser for their Smash-specific Direct. So if that's the teaser, I'm wondering what the actual announcements are. Maybe it's just like...
Kingdom Hearts.
It's got to
Maybe
be
it's just-
more new characters that I guess they don't feel like are big headliners necessarily.
It's gonna be Sephiroth and
'Cause
like.
I don't think you can get a bigger surprise than Cloud in that game because
There's no precedent for it.
yeah, there's no
I mean, even Snake at least appeared on the NES,
yeah.
technically.
No, Solid Snake. That one showed up on the GameCube.
And he showed up on the GameCube.
Yeah.
Twin
Yeah,
Snake,
that's true.
Final Fantasy VII. I can't think of one.
Final
version.
Fantasy VII has never been on a Nintendo platform in any form.
It's actually when you think about it. But besides the fact that Nintendo,
Except for Theatrhythm?
listen. Besides the biggest fuck up in the history that is messing up that whole Sony deal and then eventually creating PlayStation, that has bit Nintendo in the ass for the better part of 4 generations. When you think about it, the part where SquareSoft went to PlayStation with Final Fantasy was one of the biggest deciding factors of that entire generation. Final Fantasy
was a big
VII
decisive blow.
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII is on the N64. That's a completely different generation. I mean, the JRPG in general, I feel like, is a completely different genre. But
Nintendo basically decided that when they gave up on discs
yeah.
for cartridge, when they decided to stick with cartridges.
You know, and I'm not saying Nintendo should be better, but I just think there's like this weird, beautiful, like, that game was never on a Nintendo anything. In fact, its history is it beat Nintendo's ass decisively.
I want to like know what the call that was made.
Yeah. Like,
That-
why Cloud?
That's so weird.
Because, you know...
Because he's Cloud. He's the
Yeah,
guy
but
that-
like when I think of Smash, like one of the beautiful things about Smash Brothers is like it's this great tribute to Nintendo. I mean, whatever, it's the greatest circle jerk to themselves, but it's, you know, it's one I actually respect on some level because, you know, yeah, like Nintendo
They do it right, at least.
Yeah, like if someone's gonna circle jerk themselves, I'm gonna be like, yeah, Nintendo sort of has earned that right because of just how long they've thrived. You know what I mean? It goes beyond just the characters. It's when you start looking at it this way, that from Donkey Kong in the arcades to today in 2015, they are still relevant. And then you start looking at the people who aren't, or like where the fuck is Atari these days?
licensing Pac-Man to Nintendo.
Yeah, like come on, like it's not even close. Yeah. So, whatever. I mean, Cloud looks like he'd be a fun character. I guess that's more important. If he's going to be a more fun character for the game, who fucking cares, right?
Right.
He seems cool.
Yeah. So, that was
Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow.
are coming to the Virtual Console on the 3DS.
Which is fantastic because the batteries in those old the save batteries are dead. You'd have to open the cartridge up and replace them. So if you want to play those games, like you don't have an
emulator.
Yeah, besides an emulator, you really don't have an option. But so it's really nice, actually.
I mean, I wish that, you know, I hope that when they get to the NX, it's a unified thing for the fucking Virtual Console, because it's so stupid that one gets stuff and the other gets stuff, but they don't both get the same games, especially when it's clear that they can run these type of games.
I can finally throw out my game link to get all 151 Pokemon.
They said it's being brought back in all its like original glory. I'm like, Missing No is still in the game.
Yes!
Infinite rare candies. Yep, exactly.
It's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Infinite Master Balls too.
Yeah, Infinite Master Balls are important.
Except in Yellow, you can't do it.
Yeah, but that was what was fun about it. But in Yellow, you get to get Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur.
And you get a surfing Pikachu band.
And you get a surfing Pikachu. And
That's pretty
Pikachu
dope.
follows you around.
Yep.
Anyway, if I had one glaring critique of this Nintendo Direct, it's that thing can be summed up as the following: a remaster, a bunch of ports, DLC to games that already exist,
Games you already know about.
and games you already know about that are coming out in a month. And then Star Fox got a release date.
I thought the
What games do I know about?
the bit that they
What
showed.
games we know about?
Yeah.
Xenoblade and Mario Tennis and that Animal Crossing thing.
I thought the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon thing was really cool, actually.
Yeah. And Homeboy doesn't know how to say Tekken. Because he pronounced it, and if you watch the National Football League and you've ever listened to Yes, I Had to Be That Asshole, and you listen to Jim Nantz pronounce Hispanic names, it's the greatest thing in the world. He says Mark Sanchez, and it's just so funny to me, right? This guy, the way he said Tekken, is so good. He was like, Tekken.
Dude, there's 2 Ks for a reason.
Yo, but he was
Tekken.
like, it's like the Tekken series, and I'm just like, what? It's like, I don't know why he pronounced it that way. Like, just say Tekken. It's Tekken.
He had a brain fart.
Like,
Tekken.
you know.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. But
Yeah, I don't know. And it's other than that, I thought it was mostly not a good direct. I thought it was quite poor. Because I came out of it not excited. I came out of it like some of this was cool. A lot of this was like, who cares?
You know what? I've stopped expecting things from Nintendo Directs like 6 months ago. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, when's the last time they had a good one?
E3 last year?
yeah.
Well, like E3 is E3.
But, like, at least with other directs, I could be like, okay, the Wonderful 101 was meaty. The Splatoon one was meaty. Like,
The Smash
Super
one
Mario
they did
Maker
was
one
really
was
interesting.
meaty. Or at least, like, when they're talking about games that are months apart, you're like, okay, they usually give you, like, a new thing to work with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
This just comes off as, like... And it's gotten to a point where I'm like, these directs feel useless, right? Because direct as a form of telling an announcement without ever needing to do a press conference, I'm such a fan of, right? Because while I appreciate the aspect of a crowd giving a moment, because, like I said, I don't care about Final Fantasy VII being remade or Shenmue 3, but when we asked what would I grade that E3, I was like, I gave it an A because the crowd was so into it became fun to watch, right? Like sheer entertainment value. It's a terrible press conference as far as anyone's concerned because you all gassed up a game that's being remade from 1997 in a fucking Kickstarter, but, you know, that is what it is. The Direct, however, needs to announce, like, significant things, though. Like, if it's just shit I already know about, we have different avenues for you to do that in different ways. Like, proper trailers, or, like, dev diaries, or, like, the thing Rockstar does really well that they did with Red Dead Redemption. Like, I'm really mad more games don't do that. Because I think the way Red Dead, like, conveyed each little element of that game was one of the coolest forms of PR.
That was a really good marketing campaign where we'd look at all the little pieces individually.
Yeah. I don't know if that's just more expensive than what they're doing these days that are, you know, because if it's more efficient and less, you know, less money to do it this way, then yeah, I guess whatever, do it. But, you know, I feel like they could do more stuff with this, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They actually have things to announce, and that's a larger problem than just how they present it.
It's almost like all their main devs are on like a holding pattern thing.
Or are working on something for...
Or working on long-term projects.
That's what I mean. I think they're all on holding patterns right now. They're all doing their NX stuff.
I mean...
Unless
I
holding
think it's-
pattern means something different. Did I use that word incorrectly?
Well,
No.
it feels like they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Holding pattern is they're not doing anything?
Yeah, that's like if the runway's crowded, the planes are just in a holding
Planes just
pattern,
keep
circling the airport.
So I apologize for my grammatical failure.
The more you
Should.
know.
I mean, I think it's cool that they're showing off like stuff that we know about. Like, I got a look at some games that I didn't know about, and especially when they show off like the stuff that's only on the eShop. Like, hey, we did this. That's pretty cool. And the stuff for Splatoon was actually pretty cool when they announced all that DLC that was free.
The fact that it's all free is actually like, see, now you're allowed to say Splatoon's getting free updates.
Yeah. So, like, I think they need to keep doing that. I just think you need, like, give us something new. Justify your having a direct.
Splatoon 2 is gonna be a pretty big deal for the NX. You think they try to make Splatoon 2, well, I guess it's too early for Splatoon 2 to be a 2016 game.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, you know, that would be a really shitty move on Nintendo's part.
That would be
I think it's refreshing that not only did Nintendo make a new IP, not only was a new Nintendo IP pretty damn successful. I mean, fuck, it's successful in spite of the Wii U, when you think about it.
You could say about anything on the Wii U, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel like more so than anything.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's...
But they've
one
been
of-
supporting it well, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at like the really successful stuff for that platform. It's been like
Smash, Mario,
Mario Kart, the new Super Mario Brothers games, like the stuff that traditionally sells well. But then Splatoon has just been an out-and-out success, and it's new on a console that doesn't have big numbers.
But the crazy thing there is, like, Donkey Kong has always been absurdly successful sales-wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, from my understanding, didn't necessarily do that hot.
That's because it was called Tropical Freeze.
You are such a dick! I'm so mad I didn't jump on that. Nice. I'm high-fiving you right now.
I think that game had the issue with a lot of the other launch games in that they were a launch game.
It wasn't a launch game. It was 2014.
Was it?
was
Well, it was
last
still
year.
early. I don't know. I think it was still early enough that people were like, eh.
I mean, it was after 3D World, and 3D World did well.
Yeah, but 3D World,
That's
3D
Mario.
Marios always
Mario's
do well.
Yeah,
They
but
never
the
do
3D
amazing.
Marios don't do like Donkey Kong Country Returns. I'm pretty sure outsold Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2.
Wow.
Like, I'm pretty sure their 2D stuff actually just kicks 3D Mario's ass sales wise. Which, you know, that's not necessarily like Super Mario Galaxy still did fantastic. It's just Nintendo problems. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they're absurd
with
standards.
Your sequel only sells 6 million.
Our sequel only sold 6 million. The struggle is too real. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, whatever.
So that
Nintendo's
went,
easy to be passionate about because they're
we just talked about the Direct about as long as the Direct was.
Yeah. This is always
Yep.
our problem. Oh, they got
Right
too
on
much
schedule.
talent for this type of stuff. Anyway, Fallout 4 sold 1.2 million copies on Steam alone in 24 hours.
Lord.
Basically, if you're wondering if Fallout 4 is going to be successful, let's put it this
Wonder
way.
no longer.
The PS4 will absolutely crush that number. Because anyone that thinks the consoles will not sell more copies of Fallout 4 is not paying attention to life.
You know when like Halo 5 came out and everyone on your friends list was on Halo 5?
That's how it's been with Fallout 4.
It was like that on Steam, PS4, and Xbox One.
Yeah. Like, it's pretty legit. You know, it's been the big talking point on Twitter. About the most I can say, though, is that for... If you're wondering and whenever we're going to do a proper podcast on Fallout 4, don't hold your breath. None of
The
us
answer's
like...
never.
There's a lot of negativity towards Bethesda stuff here.
Me and William don't like Bethesda games. Phil might not be on for a while.
It feels
Wazdy has decided that without playing the game, he's going to bitch about it because it doesn't look pretty.
And God, does it not look pretty.
And Ben doesn't care. And Chris is...
I'm just burnt out on big games.
Yeah. Like, Chris wants to move on to other things. And as far as he's concerned, it's not going to be as good as The Witcher 3, so why bother?
Exactly.
As far as I can tell from bringing the conversation, if you like Bethesda games, Fallout 4 is a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
So,
Although,
although
Bethesda's never done less than 90 with their main entries of their games since the Elder Scrolls Arena would be 90, Daggerfall would be 90 or higher, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3. Now Fallout 4 is their first 80.
maybe people are being less forgiving of their jank. Maybe it's actually jankier. I don't know.
Well,
I
it's
think
not the
it's-
jankiness so much. What I've seen...
Or it's just not advancing their weaknesses.
Yes, no, that's
as much
exactly...
as they hope.
It's what I've been seeing on Facebook is even people who aren't like super into games, they still bought this because it's Fallout. They're saying, you know, this really feels like Fallout 3.5.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there's some new bells and whistles, like with the creation of settlements and customization of armor and creation, stuff like that. But there's nothing new about it. Like, there's
It's
nothing...
more Fallout.
Yeah, there's nothing next-gen about it. It feels like a game that got announced and it came out in the same year that it came out.
I will say
No, I'm sure they spent a lot of time making it.
I will
They
say
did.
this. Yeah,
Which
they
is
did spend
crazy.
A lot of time. I was gonna say this. If anything, I think it speaks more to the fact that due to how many websites now get on Metacritic, it's gotten that much harder to get a 90.
Yeah, like we've said
Because-
a few times, they really use that whole scale these days.
Well,
Not every game is
I don't-
guaranteed.
like I wouldn't go that far all the way, but it's a better use of the scale than it used to be. But I just think that the sheer volume of websites that count have now made it that, just simply getting 9s. Like, I feel like back in the day, like when I think of the major websites, Fallout 4 was still batting its 9s, right?
Yeah, it opened really strong.
Yeah, and then
In terms of views from the
it
major
just
websites.
came down. It's kind of like Rotten Tomatoes, where it started off really strong and then, it comes down. Because all that number always goes down, just it has to, right? Because the sheer volume of reviewers. And then
I think that's a good thing.
yeah, I guess, whatever. I'm just saying, it's just weird now. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, because like people are still, someone brought up a thread the other day and was like, what game's going to get 95? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, unless that game's batting a lot of perfect scores these days, and these 10 out of 10 websites are a little being held under way more scrutiny now when they're giving 10s, right? Like, they're almost constantly getting ripped a new one.
When they give a 10, yeah.
I think you kind of have to be like to get that kind of score. You have to be kind of a small game where the only people who are going to review it are the people who care about it.
Yeah, or it's a big AAA, like...
Or it's fucking incredible.
Yeah, or Last of Us scenario where it's just like, no, the people that played it really buy it.
It's just that good.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, it's actually a good point. I'm looking at the Fallout 4 reviews. All the big sites did give it the high ratings, and it's all the smaller sites.
Like, the only major website that I feel like really knocked it was, and quote, knocked it, was Jeff Gerstmann on Giant Bomb, but he gave it 4 stars on the PC version. Like, he still gave it a really good score. It was the consoles he feel like don't perform well enough for that to be acceptable.
It's almost like the smaller websites aren't being paid.
Or
I don't know.
yeah, but that works both ways. It's almost like the smaller websites are being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian.
Also true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think we can provide too much insight into this.
Yeah, that's our insight on Fallout 4. Bethesda
So.
is still making money. I'm going to look at
Good
the
for them.
positive of that, in that they've shown that there's a ceiling for an open world RPG, and it's pretty fucking high. Like, I hope, of the things I'm not happy about that people borrow from Bethesda, the one thing I will be saying is that Bethesda says, listen, we give people a big thing to explore in a game. Like, we don't guide them by the finger and then say, do this exactly this way, right? And that's awesome, because, for everyone that's going, suddenly I miss those linear games, I'm going to be like, no, fuck you. They just replaced one problem with a new problem. Neither of them is just a solution. That's the larger issue. Like, good design is still good design, right? But, I'm still going to look at the freedom part as like, yeah, I'd rather have shitty freedom games than shitty restricted games. You know what I'm saying? Rise of the Tomb Raider also released on the same day. So, in case you're wondering how it did, let's put it this way. We've gotten no information on how it sold so far. But, that's because it's only been out for, 24 hours-ish.
And only on one system so far.
And it's on one console, and that console just happens to be basically getting its ass kicked. So it's basically doomed.
It did get good reviews.
It was doing very well with reviews, I will say that. A lot of positive things have been said about the story, which I think is laughable. The production value seems to be there. They've done a better
game,
job
for sure.
Yeah, they've done the job of adding to the... So, context. I reviewed that game for our website last year, and I think I ended that review with, if they were able to keep these core combat mechanics, but were able to improve on the Metroidy nature of the game. And my solution to the tombs was, listen, either make more fleshed out tombs, or simply give me so many of them that at least I have so many puzzles to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I feel Crystal Dynamics would have a true beast of an action-adventure game for, people to deal with. And it would put a bit of pressure, I feel like, on Naughty Dog, because it would make their, Nathan Drake can be the adventurer all he wants. He's a shooter, though. Like, his game is a shooter. I don't care what anyone says.
Then at least, they're differentiated somewhat.
Yeah. And for the most part, other than the fact that I don't buy that the tombs are that fleshed out, it does seem like they've done stuff to, they've given you more space. They've gotten rid of the fake exploration that William gassed up last year, and I did an entire podcast of being an asshole to him. I'm like, that's not exploration! This is bullshit! And it's like, no. And it's like, no. Now they've added... Okay, so they've done the thing William was liking, and because they've done more of it now I feel like it's proper exploration, right? Whereas, like, going to find a pointless cup gave me no incentive. It's the issue Symphony of the Night has, where sometimes you find a sword and it's fucking useless. It adds nothing to your arsenal. Whereas with Samus, every energy tank adds to her arsenal. Like, you just got that much more health.
Right.
So,
I mean,
everything
for sure.
in Tomb Raider gives her experience points and makes her stronger, effectively.
Yes. And the talent trees are bigger, and this is just from watching Kira play the game.
Yeah.
The talent trees are bigger, the zones are a lot bigger. There's more incentive to do things like hunting. You have to kind of gather materials to craft stuff. Think kind of Last of Us, but the system is more complicated. And the tombs are
good.
A, more frequent, and B, more fleshed out. And they incorporate more naturally into the plot, kind of. Like, some of them you have to do. And even the ones that are optional, like in the old one, you were going into a tomb. You were separated from the rest of the game, and you were going to go in this tomb and solve this tomb, and then you moved on. And
the tomb was like one puzzle.
yeah, and Rise of the Tomb Raider doesn't do that. It feels more inclusive in the environment, just based on what I've seen.
My understanding is there's actual puzzles in the environment before the tomb sometimes.
Yes, that's also
and
true.
they've done more effort to add that stuff to the main part of the game. And
So it's not just like you're near a hidden tomb and then you see a bunch of drawn arrows on the cave walls pointing you towards the opening of the tomb, and then you just walk into the tomb.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
yeah.
Thank God. That was stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, the game will still tell you, like, hey, there might be something here, but it's not nearly as obnoxious about it, from what I've seen.
And the
Again,
story apparently deals with, like, her having a bit of a PTSD thing from all the killing and all that stuff. And
yeah, and, you know, it continues, like, I think the strongest bit of writing from the last one was not, like, the actual story, but it was, like, all the backstory stuff, like, all the little artifacts that you'd find and, like, the diary entries and stuff like that. And that stuff is still very good, so...
That's good.
characterization stuff.
I haven't seen enough of Laura's characterization to make a comment, but it definitely...
Yeah, whatever. I want to do a podcast on that stuff, because there was a gaff thread on the Polygon article of how she went from a sex... Like, she was...
Brianna Wu's article, yeah.
Yeah. There was a Brianna Wu thing as well. Is that what I linked?
That was the article that was on Polygon.
Yeah, it was that opinion piece on Polygon.
Oh, and then Brianna Wu also did her own thing on her own website. We'll get to that thread. Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
It is one of the fucking stupidest pieces of things I've ever read in a long-ass time. And it bothers me, because it's like... Whatever, I don't want to go on a tangent, even though I do. It's my beef with things like Knights of the Old Republic 2. It's that I feel like people get out of these fucking lit classes or some shit and feel like there's only two stories the world can tell. The super plausible, believable character that's, is vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's so cynical of a storyline that that's the only way it's deep. Whereas, like, a character being fun and entertaining is always frowned upon in, like, this weird way. Like, it's too cheesy. That's dated. It's like, no. Like,
You can do either of those things well, yeah.
Yeah, if you do it right, like, it's still fun. Like, to me, Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4, like, the way they build the camaraderie between that group is actually, like, fun. And, like, it gave it a bit of, like, pathos, if you will, by the fact that it's like, you know what, the boss gives a shit about his crew. Like, the more you play that game, the more you realize, listen, it's one thing when I shit on my boys. I have a problem when you shit on my boys. And it made the boss that much more likable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what I hate about her article, because it's like, because the other thing I have is with Bayonetta. Like, I'm not disagreeing that the way Bayonetta is presented sometimes is unnecessary. Like, she doesn't need to be that tacky. I agree with that. 100%. She is not a poor character, though. She is articulate, she's funny, she's got so much sass, she's in control almost throughout the entire game. Like, she is a strong female character by the fact that she acknowledges her sex appeal. And I feel the same way about old Lara. Her problem was she was one-dimensional. Like, she wasn't particularly deep, but that Lara Croft worked because old Tomb Raider was pulpy. You know
Yeah,
what
I mean, like, my
Basically,
problem
the
with it.
female version of James Bond in Indiana.
Yes, thank you. But like, yes, like that character. James Bond is still fun. People love Roger Moore's James Bond and Pierce Brosnan's James Bond. I don't all that much, but like, I don't think James Bond is a poor character necessarily. Like, he's fun. I just don't like the movies that much.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too into the article itself. I mean,
Yeah.
my issue with it was more.
No,
It's
I
kind of
wanna
like
get-
a fluff piece.
Yeah, I do
But,
want to get
like,
into that podcast though.
For Laura's characterization, I mean, in the first game, I felt like the weakest part was just like the very beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and like that transition from having her be completely fresh to like having her like start getting involved in all this violence, and also like getting injured over and over and over.
Yeah.
But I felt like once the game kind of got going, I liked the character they were portraying there, and so I think Rise of Tomb Raider could be good if it's just like building on that.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
yeah, and so like I think
Cool.
yeah, I'd probably talk about this more once more of us have actually played the game.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean-
I guess the other thing.
I think there's
like,
potential there.
I want
I'm
to
kind of-
play the PC version, even though I have a perfectly capable of Xbox One that can play this. And I want to play the game at 60 frames because if I'm gonna play the 30 frame version of a game when I have no other option.
That's
But
where I'm at.
I'm
too.
like,
The
I'm
option
like,
to wait.
this game does sound like something I would actually enjoy, though. So I want to be like, listen, Kira, if you just wait until the 2016 Game of the Year talks, we can discount it then. Because, like, I might actually back your play. They're actually making the adjustments I wanted them to make. Like,
I think
no.
if you sold her this idea, she'd probably be like. I mean, I think she's probably Team Metal Gear anyway. But
No, not Game of the Year necessarily, but like I'm gonna feel annoyed when we cut it from the 2015 thing because we could end up cutting it by virtue of the fact that only
haven't
Kira
played
played
it
it, and I'm not cutting Rocket League, and it's ridiculous if we cut Ori. It's ridiculous if we cut Pillars or something, right?
Right.
whatever. So if we haven't really played it, we're
Especially
less familiar with
when
it.
Phil will have something to say or something funny. Or something like that.
but
Yeah.
Um,
I,
and
I
then
don't
maybe
wanna,
maybe it turns out to be great in 2016, and we didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get to 2016 and me and Chris are going, it's like, yo, this game's actually like really fucking cool.
But we can't nominate it anymore.
But we can't nominate it anymore because we didn't want to play it on the Xbox One last year. Yeah, I think that's
I'm
done.
waiting.
Yeah, thanks Microsoft. Anyway,
That's the price they pay.
yeah, it's the
All
price
right.
we pay for their shit.
Moving
let's-
on.
Moving on. The other big release, which one of us did play, is, and yes, this is a big release because when you think about it, is one of the more important releases. Starcraft 2: Legacy of the Void is out.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
this
is.
felt weird because like it's a huge game, and I felt like I didn't really hear much about it coming out. It just kind
Yeah.
of appeared.
William.
That's how I kind of felt too. I remember like looking at a release date before they announced it, and it was like it's gonna be this year, and then it was like, oh, it's next month, and they came out and said it. But it's really good. The multiplayer balance is definitely there, and it feels better than Heart of the Swarms did.
Mhm.
Just based on
Alright.
the 10 matches of multiplayer that I've played so far. And the campaign is also really good. It does the StarCraft 2 things that you expect, but if you didn't like the kind of the way that Heart of the Swarm was structured, in that it was all about like Kerrigan is OP and you're going to upgrade her, it definitely is more like Wings of Liberty, but it's not like it doesn't lock you in the way Wings of Liberty did, because Wings of Liberty gave you resources to like upgrade your stuff, and then once you spent them, that was it. In Legacy of the Void, essentially what you do is you get these resources throughout the missions, and then you have a bunch of different upgrades that you can do, and they all go to your ship, your big fancy Protoss ship. And then depending on what you upgrade, you get in-battle abilities that you can use, so you can like call down reinforcements or put down pylons or call down orbital strikes, just depending on how you allocate your resources. And you can also upgrade your units, but you can change what you want to have between missions. So like your Zealot upgrade might make it so that they can like teleport basically, and your other one makes them really good at attacking groups. So if you think you're going into a mission where you're not going to have that many groups because you're fighting other Protoss, then you take the second one. But then the next mission you're fighting Zerg, so you go back and you take the other one.
That's nice. Yeah, before they had made you hard commit to that stuff.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of different different ways to play and how to build your army and what you want to do. And there's 3 upgrade tracks for most of the main units. So you've got like a lot of different choices. I've only unlocked 2 of them so far, but you can get a 3rd one later in the campaign. And then you can just pick and choose between missions, whatever you want, basically. And it's a really cool system. It makes the units feel very different. It's also the way that they've kind of been bringing back the old units from the original StarCraft, like Dragoons. Dragoons are now an upgrade for Stalkers. So, like, if you want a Dragoon, you can have them. Yeah. So it comes together really well. And it's well presented, and you know, all those big Blizzard game things. Like, the writing is a little bit silly, but the story is, I guess, engaging enough to keep you interested. I don't know. It's good. That's all I can say about it. It's
cool
really
stuff
good.
about the Protoss in StarCraft 1 was that, like, that's when StarCraft would, like, really ham up the camp a bit.
Right.
And, like, they were the fun campaigns, the way I would put it. It was like, like, original StarCraft isn't, I mean, that's, maybe fun campaign is the wrong way to put it, but, like, original StarCraft had, like, this grittier vibe that I feel like StarCraft 2 sort of lost once it went into the Heart of Swarm.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the Protoss was when they cooled off a bit, and, like, they were just being chill and entertaining, and, like, they would just say weird things, like riding a bike, and it's, like, the dumbest scene, and it's so fucking entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like, Zeratul is the shit. Because of all the StarCraft characters, he does not give an iota of a fuck about a lot of things, and it's great.
Yeah, that's pretty, and that's true of the new one too.
Yeah.
And the,
like, for a reference, like, when I say camp, I'm saying like they know how to have, like, those witty one-liners and, like, acknowledge, like, the ridiculousness of the scenario, but it's not like winks and nods like this is shoot 'em up or something, or like it's super cheesy like Capcom's games.
yeah,
It's
there's
just more like light in its tone, as opposed to, like, where, like, parts of the Raynor campaign eventually get, like, grim. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure.
Mm.
And Legacy of the Void definitely does that. There's this really funny segment after, like, you've had this huge, like, important battle, and one of the Terran scientists is talking to your character, and he's like, well, you know, send our appreciation for sending us this data based on the thing. And the guy goes, you got it, Skippy. And then the Protoss is just sitting there like, Skippy? It's really funny. I don't know. But it's definitely got that like, camp where it's kind of like being high fantasy and not taking itself, like, it takes itself seriously enough that, like, you want to go see what happens next, but not seriously enough that you can be like, this is dumb. And they know this is dumb.
Yeah. That's good.
That's good.
And
I
if you
want to play Legacy of the Void.
if you do want to play it, if you have a copy of Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, I don't know if you have to have Heart of the Swarm or not, but the prologue missions are like the first 3 missions of the campaign, and they're absolutely free if you have a copy of StarCraft 2. You can just go play them.
Yeah. And, yeah. I'm invested enough in this story that I find it stupid, but I do want to see it end now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am there. Like, I'm not... I told myself, I was like, maybe I'll just skip all the cutscenes again. But, no.
I want to know what happens, so I hope you guys will tell me at some point.
Yeah, no, I'll... and, you know, it's good in the way that, like, they're explaining a lot of things. Like, they maybe didn't make sense in the previous games. Like, oh, this happened because of this, but you didn't really know that because...
Like everything Kerrigan does in Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, kind of like that. Because, like, Wings of Liberty is very much about Jim Rader and Kerrigan, and then Heart of the Swarm is about Kerrigan trying to, like, kind of wrap up her little story threads, and the Protoss are left to deal with, like, the big meta plot, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So all that stuff kind of gets like, well, this happened because of this, and this happened because of this. Lots of little fun details.
So the universe will be saved, or not?
You know, I'm only 7 missions in. It's there's 19 core missions, 3 epilogue missions, and the prologue missions. So it's
Okay.
about the same as the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 8 missions,
Do you
9,
think-
something like that.
Do you think part of the reason StarCraft 2 launched to sort of like such silent fare is just that now that StarCraft isn't sort of that big, like, so the, like, Wings of Liberty had the advantage of, because StarCraft hadn't been out in a while, like, we all had to, like, like the mainstream media had to acknowledge its existence because it was like, no, this is one of gaming's icons. Like this is you cannot speak of the history of video games and skip the StarCraft chapter. You have to talk about it, right? So like they need to acknowledge the sequel a bit. And so that's why a lot of like websites that clearly don't know shit about RTS games, right? Mm-hmm. Still talk about it. But now that we're on the third expansion, it's like, yeah, no, they sort of treated it like it's DLC to that game more than like its own separate thing.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably played a role in the game's stealth release. Although I would have thought we would hear some like big sales numbers for that game.
I'm sure Blizzard will announce something. They usually like to be like, in the first week we had X number of downloads. But I think it has had more of a stealth release for like the things that you mentioned. And just some people are unhappy with the fact that it got split into 3 games, but
yeah, but they have all the time in the world to get over that now.
Yeah. I mean, but there's still people who are like, how dare they make, 3 big campaigns?
Yeah. Like, people are forgetting the original StarCraft had 3 factions, but it was effectively the length of Wings of Liberty. Although, that might have added to a lot of that game's mystique, so I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
all this method did was really, like, I ended up not liking Heart of the Swarm that much, whereas, like, I really liked Wings of Liberty. It's like...
Yeah.
So...
I mean, it's... I don't know. It's got, like, it's what you expect from a Blizzard game. It's very polished, very well put together. The missions are very well designed, clearly have been play tested a lot. The new units are extremely well balanced. They do a lot of different things. It's a Blizzard release. If you like StarCraft, you're gonna like it. And
I would argue it's like the first time in a good while. Like StarCraft 2, I feel like, is the only game that's felt like Blizzard actually living up to their like sort of name a little bit in recent years. Just because, like, well, I mean, whatever. I guess Legacy of the Void I haven't played that yet, but like I remember, like Heart of the Swarm, I just came out of it thinking this is such a step down from Wings of Liberty. Diablo 3, whatever. I don't like Diablo all that much, but it died. The mistakes that were made with Diablo 3 were so amateur hour in some ways that I was like, this is supposed to be one of the greatest game companies ever, like, period, bar none. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Hearthstone is cool, but
yeah,
it's a card.
And the fun thing is that you can look at Legacy of the Void especially, and see what they picked up from Wings of Liberty and what they picked up from Heart of the Swarm with the stuff that worked and didn't work, and how they made the upgrade systems different. And like, there's no dialogue choices in Legacy of the Void, for instance, and that was present in the other 2 games. And you don't have those like faux choices that you're presented with in Wings of Liberty. Like, do you go do this and something bad happens, or do you go do the other thing? It's just very, very brought together and focusing on the stuff that works from StarCraft, and you can tell that they've spent time trying to figure out what that is. But yeah, good game. Everybody should go play it. First 2 missions are free.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I really got on StarCraft. Do you feel that is StarCraft Legacy of the Void going to, like, general idea, does it end in a way where they leave open a StarCraft 3, or do they end it? Like, they end that story? You don't know that, but, like, what's the general reactions been? Like, has anyone read anything online with this stuff? Or?
Just talking to some friends who have beaten the campaign, what they're telling me is that basically it does wrap up everything. And it wraps it up rather well, and Destructoid's review, I think, kind of covers that as well. They're talking about... So it wraps up the story for these characters, and what Blizzard has said that they're going to do is do, like, smaller expansions, like, focused on certain characters. So, like, Nova's getting one, and then they'll do more later. They've said that they might do a StarCraft 3, but my understanding is it wraps up these characters. And, like, there is an epilogue at the end, so they kind of... Yeah.
Blizzard, because I know you listen to Endless Backlog podcasts.
Obviously.
Don't make StarCraft 3. Alright? Not because StarCraft isn't worthy of... It's none of that shit. Enough with sequels. Please stop. Expansions, alright. DLC, fine. Sequels, cut that shit out. Do something else. You're doing Overwatch. You're doing Heroes of the... That's not even a new IP. The point is, we're long overdue for a proper new thing from Blizzard that isn't tied to... Like, even Hearthstone is tied to Warcraft. In fact, they call it Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
Yep.
So, like Heroes of the Storm is just Blizzard's way of doing Smash Brothers, but in a MOBA.
So,
Pretty much.
Overwatch better be good.
Yeah, like, as far as I'm concerned, you've wrapped up the fiction of StarCraft. As far as, like, the competitive game, listen, you already made the beautiful game with StarCraft 1. Most of that fan base might end up arguing that StarCraft 2 is exceptional, but not necessarily as amazing as the first game, which, whatever, right? Like, none of us play that game at a high enough level to disagree with them, right? But, like, StarCraft 2 is excellent. I don't think you need to make a sequel to that game multiplayer-wise. Like, it'd be fine, because I think that game will last, considering that StarCraft 1 to this day has last. Like, today, there are people playing that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're still maintaining it, and they're actually posting for job updates on their site to keep maintaining the games.
Yeah, like, just update your game. No one wants Counter-Strike 2, because Counter-Strike is perfect the way it is.
Right.
So, other than that, although if they did Warcraft 4, that would be pretty fucking rad.
Well, we'll see how Overwatch turns out. So,
I mean,
Overwatch
I guess that's
looks
part of,
cool.
Yeah, Overwatch looks fun.
yeah, that'll be a new IP for them.
Fun,
so.
looks like a fun multiplayer game.
Yep.
I'd like to see them do a single player thing too, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think most RTS games have good campaigns. Actually, like, I think other than Company of Heroes and StarCraft, I'm not the biggest fan of too many of them. But you know, still,
Would you like to see them do an adventure game?
like a third-person action adventure game, or like an actual adventure game.
One or the other.
When I say when I say adventure game, I mean like a point and click. Those are adventure games.
Like a point and click with choices.
Broken
Yeah,
Age.
but I mean they've never done a point and click. But okay,
They're-
yeah, sure.
Anything new?
Oh, you're segueing!
Oh.
Nice! Okay, that is a strange way to go about it.
What else is strange, Goggin?
Life is strange.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
You're number one after our podcast.
How is Life is Strange,
I
Goggin?
finished Life is Strange because Aljosa swears it's one of the better games this year. And I can confirm after beating it that just like in video games, where if you nail gameplay, you can get away with just about any motherfucking thing on God's green earth in terms of fucking up your game, right? Add insurance to your game, make the second half really stupid, don't even have an ending that makes sense or, like, is anywhere close to, like, you know, respectable.
Pretty sure we weren't supposed to talk about that game.
Exactly.
We're not
supposed to talk
naming
about
what
names
that.
talking
here,
about.
Chris.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah.
about
Oh,
Life
this
is
is
Strange.
hypothetical.
This is hypothetical. Yeah. You can, you know,
These
if
are
your
frequent
game,
video
for
game
instance,
sins.
let's say this: if your gameplay is varied enough, people will call it the greatest FPS game ever made, in spite of the fact that it clearly ends on one of the stupidest cliffhangers ever in Half-Life 2. But you know, that is what it is. Life is
Best game
Strange
ever.
is an example of if your story has heart, there are so many things you can get away with. Because, I mean, okay, so part of it is that I don't think any game has the setting of Life is Strange in a video game. Like, Bully is the closest thing I can think of. Like, where it takes place in the school.
Mundanities of life.
Yeah, but even with that, I feel like so many games would struggle to overcome. And the dialogue isn't offensive all the time, but it is so wrong in terms of, like, kids do not speak this way, please stop. No one used the word cereal. We just used it because South Park used it once, and it was, like, funny, because it was the Al Gore episode.
So
Right?
Syria.
Yeah, like, I don't ever remember ever saying, "Are you cereal?" Like, and, like, meant it in the proper context the way Max Caulfield says it when our camera breaks.
I
I
think
thought I saw someone say that on System Wars once.
I've said it when I was younger.
Yeah, but, like, on System
Like-
Wars, it was meant as a joke because they saw it on South Park.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Oh, you're thinking of series.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking
That episode
series.
was great. I mean, that thread was great. But, you know, in general, I just think, beyond that, I just thought Life is Strange, like, the thing I take away from it, and the thing that makes it so endearing is that story's got heart in spades. When you got clear eyes, full hearts, man, you can't lose. Friday Night Lights.
The car agreed.
The car watches Friday Night Lights. I like that car. Anyway, Max Caulfield is probably one of the more, like, believable characters I've played in a while, right? Like, she's insecure at times. She's, like, you know, not necessarily confident, right? Which I think is relatable, even if you're a male in high school, right? Like, you're
Being in high school
second-guessing
is
yourself.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're growing up, you want to have your own thing, but if you have your, like, own opinion on certain things, it's technically frowned upon because that's not the hip thing, right?
Right.
You know, like, you deal with characters that, like, absolutely were, like, you know that character in high school. Like, Victoria is a grade A bitch who ruined my life, and she's such a bitch. But no, like, I mean, like, Victoria is, like, that character has always existed in your life at some point in school, where, you know, she's, like, the super preppy, like, well-behaved, like, everything's going her way, but she still decided to be a bitch for some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And steal your motherfucking cookies.
Whoa,
What the
man.
fuck?
Yo, that's
up.
when shit got real. So she's like...
That's the darkness
No,
moment.
That's the darkest moment for me. Like, people were, like, wrapped up, because she's, like, spreading rumors about this one chick just to, like, cause shit between her and her boyfriend. She's, like, a bully to, like, so many people. She's mean to Kate, and Kate is so likable as a character. And then my issue with that whole game was, besides the fact that, like, she invaded Max Caulfield's dorm room, right, was that Max recognizes her cookie box is missing cookie, or when she's invading Victoria's dorm room, so yes, I have double standards with this shit, and she notices her cookie box there. I was like, this bitch stole your cookies! What? Who does that? Steal your, like, Entenmann's chocolate chip? That's ridiculous.
Anything's permissible at that point.
Yeah, like, no, that's not permissible, Ben. That is inexcusable behavior.
Once that line is crossed,
Yeah.
all bets are off.
All bets are
Retaliate.
off, exactly. So Joseph was watching me play the game, and there's a point where you're allowed to rip her a new one. Like, whatever, I guess it's a spoiler, but I don't think it's a significant one. And I let Max Caulfield destroy that speck of a self-esteem Victoria has. Because that shit was gone when I was done, son. That shit was gone!
You're ruthless.
Yo, it was ruthless. It was pretty good. I like that game.
So how do you play like this stream?
So you walk around and you talk to people, you make some dialogue choices, right? When you press left trigger, Max has the ability to rewind time.
Ooh.
The beauty of this is, right? After every choice she's gonna make, she does the doubt thing where she's not sure about the choice, right? And I think it actually, now that I'm allowed to talk about it out loud, I'm suddenly understanding how that plays into the theme a little bit better. Because you that's what you do when you make a choice. Like, I don't know if that was the right way to go about this. So you rewind and just see what the other result is. Like, you're not going to see the long-term effect, right? But you get a general idea of what changed during that scene. It's like, okay, which of these results am I happier with? So that, I think, is weird and interesting at the same time. Because it's not necessarily which choice you're going with, it's which consequence you're going with.
Right.
Which I think is kind of like a neat little twist to it all. The game starts, like, it's set up, she has a bad dream, because, of course, and, she goes to the bathroom after she's done with class, blah, 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 the scenes happen, and there's a point where a character gets shot, and she reacts to it, and then it rewinds time back to her being in the classroom again, and she's like, what the fuck just happened? That dream was a little too real. Like, because she rewind all the way back to her waking up from her dream.
Right.
And then she notices everything plays out the same way, right? So then she makes a beeline to the bathroom after she's made her own adjustments, because, you know, why am I going to get the question wrong again when I can stick it to Victoria, the bitch? Anyway, you make it to the bathroom, you save the girl, right? And then the rest of the story plays out. When the girl ends up being Chloe, who's a childhood friend of hers, where when she moved to Seattle, Max Caulfield, she then came back to the town she used to live in, which is the one Chloe lives in, for some, like, photography school, because it's what she wants to do for a living, I guess, or whatever. And then, then the rest of the story goes from there, right? Like, the big setup is she sees a storm coming for the town and it's going to happen in 5 days.
Some Donnie Darko shit.
Yeah, and there's a missing girl part, and that missing girl happens to be a friend of Chloe's, right? It's hinted at as a borderline love interest, but I don't think that's really the case. I think it was like a legitimate, like, just they were
Friendship.
friends. Yeah. And clearly, like there's some shady shit going on at that school. Like, you meet Chloe's stepdad, who's this like security guard dude, who's like an ex-military dude who is super like paranoid about shit, and seems to like definitely be, listen, I may not follow the rules, but I get results type guy. Except he's not really presented that way. It's just he's trying to do that thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's what that guy would be in real life. Let's put it that way. It was like, in a movie, totally cool and badass. A real cop like that, in this case, a security guard, so it's even worse. But like, if a real cop acted that way, you'd be like, you are such an asshole. It's not.
You should not have this job.
Yeah. So he's a little weird, and you know, like, the rest of the story then revolves around that. Like, what happened to Rachel? Like, what's going on at the school? You know, it's navigating like Max and Chloe's relationship, and Chloe can be at times a bit frustrating, I feel like, depending on sometimes she feels like she's taking advantage of certain things with Max, or trying to guilt trip her into things, and I would argue that a lot of that makes sense and feels real, because I feel like sometimes your friends give you shit for things that they clearly shouldn't give you shit for.
Mm-hmm. Kenny.
That's what?
Kenny from Walking Dead.
Yeah, like, they just do things, right?
I mean, Kenny was just the worst human being.
Yeah, Kenny from The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
As in,
remember,
like,
no matter what decision you chose, he hated you.
Yeah. True. No, Kenny liked me at the end of The Walking Dead.
He hated me.
Clearly, you guys weren't
nice
nice enough to Kenny.
To say, what? Kenny's chill as shit.
No, he was not chill.
No.
I don't think he's chill, but...
He always criticized.
No, he never criticized me after a certain
always
point.
criticized.
The scenario I presented to him was one he had to accept, but, like, he understood I was trying to do the right thing for him when it came to Doug.
Dude, it was...
Trust me, he did not hate my guts after that scene. He was like... He
He's
understood.
just really sad.
Yeah, he was sad, but he understood my shoulder was there for him to cry on.
Dude was always criticizing me.
Yo, make better decisions anyway.
Maybe you should be nicer to Kenny.
Yeah,
Fuck
I mean...
Kenny.
Whatever, I feel like...
So you're kind of, like, balance... It's like a balance between this, like, supernatural stuff going on.
I think
these foreboding prophecies, and then just, like, navigating high school.
Yeah. And I think Chloe... I think where my issues with the overall game are... First, I feel like the mechanism that launches the ending doesn't work, even though... Or it's not so much that it doesn't work, because it's sort of always been a part of the story. It's just... I wish they had something better than that being the mechanism for what leads to my ending. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, even if this works, it's still like, I wanted something more potent than this.
Mm-hmm.
But the ending itself, the real ending, because the alternative ending is so fucking idiotic that it's only there because choices, right?
Mm.
The real ending to me, I think, hits home. I think it's effective. It absolutely fits the game thematically.
That's the one you got?
Yeah, that's one I picked, of course. Yeah, because, like I said, the alternative ending as a choice was so ridiculous as a choice. I'm like, no one could validate that decision, even if I... Like, even... The thing they would... No, never mind. It's not worth talking about. Like,
that's the ending. That's the ending I'll get.
Yeah,
sure.
No, you won't. You'll make the right choice. That's what I mean. Like, there's no way you make that other choice.
Watch
anyway,
me.
You can't do it, Chris.
Yeah,
I know what the choices are.
Yeah, like one is just too absurd of a scenario, and then
the writer in you will just hate it if you.
Yes, exactly.
I'll go green ending. Don't make me do it.
You watch good movies, so I know you will hate the ending anyway. And or that version of the ending. So I do like the ending. I don't like the setup to the ending necessarily.
How it got there.
Yeah, and what's unfortunate is I feel like the first 4 episodes do such a good job getting you there, and even the stuff in episode 5 does a really good job. It's like the final stretch of it is not as strong as it could be. And then the other part is just gameplay stuff, right? Because of the dialed back nature of the gameplay, to the point where there isn't much in gameplay, right? Like sometimes you get these weird dialogue, I don't want to call them puzzles. But you get these weird dialogue exchanges where you're going back and forth between characters that you're talking to, and you keep rewinding time with the new information you've gained, because now you can throw a new conversation at them because you present it in a way like you know something about it, right?
Mm.
And that character shares a new detail. And you keep bouncing back until you get the actual thing you need, and then you go forward from there, right?
It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, like that's mildly interesting on some level, but a lot of it still came up to me being a mostly passive viewer through the experience, right? Like, I'm still pressing buttons, but like my button presses ultimately feel pointless to me. It's the same feeling I get when I play The Walking Dead. I was like, I feel if you watch someone play that game on YouTube, you don't miss out on that much. Like, yes, I guess in this comparison we just showed that Kenny can go a few different ways, but the general gist of that story didn't need me to be there, right? Because I don't think Kenny liking you or disliking you is all that important to the story.
Not really.
Yeah, so especially the thing that people really like about the ending, like, you know. The other thing, it makes all the same mistakes that Telltale makes. For instance, I think when you have a game where you get to pick the dialogue runs into situations where the flow isn't there. Like, it doesn't flow the way it should. What I mean by that is, for instance, the scene where I'm ripping Victoria a new one. The decision you have to make at that point, one of them is too fucked up of a thing that I wouldn't even do to Victoria, so I'm naturally not going to do it. That decision, followed by me ripping her a new one, came off like an awkward exchange all of a sudden, right? Like, it didn't match what I was just saying.
Right.
So that felt awkward and disjointed, and someone's going to say, well, like, you shouldn't have ripped her a new one. I was like, well, that's not how a fucking human being works. I was like, we don't make good guy statements all the time. Sometimes you say something mean, and when you're about to say something correct to the other person after you said something mean, you don't just contradict yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chris, if I spent the last hour calling you a piece of shit, I wouldn't just be like, listen, Chris, you have so much to live for because you're such a beautiful person. I'd be like, listen, you need to shape up, go back to school, I'm tired of this behavior, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would still work in some sort of...
You try and maintain
the same message is being conveyed, but suddenly you're a nice guy.
Yeah,
it's like,
and that I feel Telltale runs into this. I think BioWare sort of runs into it as well.
BioWare definitely does.
The thing with BioWare's games are that, like, the very nature of them make you do Paragon and Renegade runs, but, like, Life is Strange and Telltale's games make you want to mix and match.
Yep.
Right? So that's lost, and I think that's something they need to work on. Because they should. Like, I'm, you know, you got to put your money where your mouth is in that department.
Maybe the technology will get there where it can, like, start to sense what type of person you are, and the 3 or 4 dialogue options they choose aren't just, like, standard for everyone.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, like, you need to actually do the work necessary to be like, okay, it can't just be binary all the way through. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm ripping her a new one, but I still want to make the right decision, you need to give me a replacement version of, like, this dialogue. Like, so let me put it this way. Certain exchanges, like, again, the choice, maybe the good choice needs 3 different, like, ways it can be said. Right? So, like, they match better with what was being said. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I think it's probably more complicated.
It's more writing, but it'll make it feel better.
They would actually, like, don't get me wrong, like, they would need to do more legwork is what the real issue is. And that, I understand, is difficult, but, again, no one cares about degree of difficulty. We just want you to see you get it all the way. And they should be asked to get it all the way. I think I hit on that. I got the ending, and I got the lack of gameplay. And the dialogue is not that strong. What else was I missing? That's really it. You know? I mean, I still really came out of this liking my experience with the game. You know what I mean? Like, I played it all for the story, and I really like Max Caulfield.
Which is rare for you to play a game for a story.
And I agree with Phil. El Joso only likes it because Max Caulfield is a hipster.
That sounds like an Aljoza game.
Yeah, but, you know, it's so endearing. I feel like if you play that game, you will... Like, yeah, I think everyone will have their disagreements with that game, but I don't think anyone will come away from that game and think, yeah, we would have been better if it didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, a game with that much heart, I feel like, has earned its place. And
I will have to check it out.
And I have to, again, give a shout-out to Phil Fogg from GameUnder.net podcast, because he bought me the first episode of that game.
Cool.
So... Aljosa was right on a second game this year, I guess.
Yes, he's been actually doing pretty well. Soma and...
To be fair, he didn't hype any of them. He played them first and then hyped them. So
That's always the key.
See,
that's got to be the thing.
yeah.
If he hypes it, it's garbage. If he plays it and says it's good, then it probably is good.
I feel like there was something else about Life is Strange that bugged this shit. Oh, okay. Now this is the other thing Telltale games do that is so... needs to stop right the fuck now. At the end of The Walking Dead, you sit down against the dude, the guy who had Clementine for a bit, and he recaps your choices.
Yeah.
Oh.
Life is Strange has a thing like it, where they recap all the things that have happened in the story. And I don't think that needs to happen. That does not need to exist in the story. You must be able to trust your audience to remember the plot. I understand that some of these people will play them when they're released, which, yes, is going to be months apart. And they will need a refresher course. But, no.
That's why you have a last time on Dragon Ball Z segment.
Yeah.
I don't think they did it in The Wolf Among Us.
They did it in The Wolf Among Us.
Those things always feel like really cheesy.
I don't think they did it in Wolf Among Us.
Yeah.
Like having a title drop.
Yeah. You know, it wasn't...
Does Life is Strange have a title drop?
Title drop? What do you mean title drop?
Someone says Life is Strange in a way that sounds really out of place.
Someone just looks at the camera
Let me
and
put it this way. I don't remember a scene like that, so I don't think so. I would say no, but...
What are we, some sort of Suicide Squad?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Still the greatest thing.
I mean, could be worse.
Yeah.
Could it?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing getting impressions from you guys when eventually you get around to it. I'd like
to check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
ditto.
The other big one I want to see play, or at least me and Ben definitely want to see play, is Her Story. Just because, you know.
That's a really unique game.
Yeah, well, that game's so different, but like the reason I bring that one up is I feel like more of an active participant with that type of storytelling. But I feel like Her Story is such a one-off idea. You could never make that type of game again without blatantly ripping it off.
I feel like the games I have to play...
I wouldn't mind someone ripping it off one more time.
Yeah.
Is like Life is Strange, Her Story, Ori.
Soma.
These are Soma. I want to play Broken Age. That was free on PS4.
I should.
Ben likes it.
I liked episode 1. I still haven't played the second episode.
Wow,
feel like-
are you serious?
Those are probably the games that I'll tackle after this one.
Yeah, but no. I just got a good call on that one. I highly recommend Life is Strange. I came out of liking it. Tower still likes it, and I was like, wow, really? He's like, yeah, that game's got heart, but the story is stupid. Well, not the story is stupid. It's more so like the dialogue is dumb. But he ended up liking the characters as much as me and Eljosa did, so.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's worth playing. But, you know. It's a bit of a downer, though.
I like
Downer?
downers.
I've been playing the ultimate downer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Game
he
called
did it
Downwell.
again.
Holy shit!
The transition game is on point tonight.
Yeah, why not?
Well played, Gongan.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a game about falling down
Mm-hmm.
a lot. Yeah, I got it for like $3 on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
It's also on iPhone. It's supposed to be coming to Android soon. And it's basically... It's sort of a roguelike-ish, kind of like Spelunky.
Right.
Very simple graphics. You're a guy with rocket boots.
Mm-hmm.
Not rocket boots, gun boots. You have gun boots and you're falling down a well.
Mm-hmm. Male Bayonetta. Okay.
No actual guns, just gun boots.
Okay.
And you fall, and you're just trying to fall and get down as far as you can, and you get gems from landing on enemies, and you can use them to upgrade your character, and you find various weapons inside caves.
Right.
It's a very simple game, and the presentation is extremely simple. It's just left, right, and a button to control. Mm-hmm. The button that makes you jump is the same button that shoots your gun boots.
Okay, so how does that work? Like, how does that ever feel like clumsy or clunky?
Well, what's great about the game is that you're always making these like little trade-off decisions, and that's constantly presenting to you over the course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so like it's really an active game.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, since you're basically always going down, you're falling. Mm-hmm. The only thing that can stop your downward momentum when you're in the air is shooting your gun.
Mm-hmm.
So you jump into the air and you're falling, you shoot, and you can use that to kill enemies. But you have a limited amount of ammo in your gun boot clip. Right. And that only refreshes when you bounce off something, whether that's the ground or an enemy or certain pieces of the environment that you can bounce off of.
Okay.
And there's a combo counter in the game. As you bounce off of enemies, as you chain kills together, a number goes up. And when that reaches certain milestones, then you get bonuses once the combo finishes. But you have to not touch the ground while that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So since you can't touch the ground, you're constantly falling. You have this downward momentum that keeps going. And you can't break it if you want to keep this combo going up.
Hmm.
And so it's really exciting all the time in that way, I guess. You're trying to manage your resources and do this all really quickly.
Right.
And it got me very hooked.
Yeah, you've been playing that game sort of like religiously.
Yeah.
So
What's kind of nice is that there are like little side areas, like where the weapon upgrades are. There's kind of like these bubbles on the side. When you land in them, time stops and it maintains your combo counter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of like relax a little bit, just like take deep breath and
calm down a bit, like if it's getting too tense.
Yeah.
Kind of like the save room to the goat.
Exactly. Yeah, like that. There's some rhythm to it in that way. It's not just constantly and then you die.
Yeah. You said kind of like a roguelike. What do you mean kind of?
Well, like there's the original roguelike definition, as in it's a game that's exactly like Rogue. And then there's the more modern roguelike definition, which includes things like Spelunky or Rogue Legacy or Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Those are called roguelite.
It's a roguelite.
Yeah.
Yes. Then that's what it is.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's a
the same thing as like Binding of Isaac and Spelunky in the sense that it's like your game is played in runs.
Your game is played in one thing. You go down as far as you can. There's a final boss and you can beat it. But once you run out of your health, then that's it.
What's FTL? A strategy game that just has roguelite elements?
I consider that a roguelite.
Yeah, because the way I look at it is like I definitely think it's roguelite-ish. That final boss is such a pain in the ass that it is played in runs.
And Downwell is a little similar in that way. There's a final boss. Once you get good enough at the game, then you can like get to that area. A lot of it is like, I want to have enough resources that I'm prepared for this fight.
Yeah.
Like the upgrade paths are much more linear in Downwell, so it's not quite like FTL where it's like I need these specific skills in order to do this.
Do you think anyone could execute that style of like just roguelite nature in a AAA space?
Yeah, I think
because like the hook
be a tough
of
sell,
right? Like because the hook of a roguelite, or like what's cool about FTL, or what's cool about Spelunky or Binding of Isaac is that.
Yeah.
The story being told is by the player, and it's almost like it becomes the water cooler game in the sense that like when you share your version of how certain scenarios played out, it's so different that it's
it's pretty unique every time.
Yeah.
And there's just this big possibility space.
Yeah.
I mean, like
cool
that kind of legacy exists in a lot of other popular games. I mean, you could even, in some ways, think of. I mean, Minecraft isn't like this, but like that sort of like heavy randomization.
Is Minecraft? Yeah.
Yeah. Don't Starve is like this.
Yeah.
Also, like heavy randomization. Lots of possibility, heavy penalties for death. I think there's a room for that, but I don't think at AAA space. You get there's a pretty big percentage of the audience that would just get really frustrated when like they lose all their progress.
Yeah.
Downwell, there is some sort of persistence in that, like all the gems you collect over the course of the game, like when you die, that's kind of pulled into this progress bar, and every time it hits various markers, you get either different play styles or different palettes for the game. Because like the game's like 3 colors, so there's just like a bunch of different color choices.
Like what is it? Like red, white, and black.
Yeah,
and the black is thick, man. Like that shit is dark as night.
Dark black, like bright white, and then like really intense red.
Yeah, like the red's like fucking. I don't want to say
everything
crimson.
pops really well. It's easy to it's very readable, which is good because it's a fast game.
Oh, so it is quick.
Yeah, it moves fast. It's like Spelunky. If Spelunky's not getting you high anymore, you need something much harder.
Oh.
Gotta stay high.
I thought you were gonna say things like Spelunky. I think is more deliberate in how some of the mechanics go.
I mean harder, like drug harder.
No, yeah. Okay.
Like it gives you, it's more intense.
No, I mean that's why I thought you were going, but then you went a different direction. I was like, oh.
Smoke.
Yeah, Spelunky's deliberate. You can take your time with it. You want to make sure you're planning out your moves.
Yeah.
Downwell is because it's more streamlined, but because it has downward momentum, it's like you're making this fast. Things are going fast.
Speed, yeah. Oh, that's cool.
That's
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it feels real good. It's just like the movement of the jumps and the weight of your falling. It's like all the little things are done very well, which is exciting. I beat it. Beating it unlocks a hard mode, and the hard mode adds a whole bunch of more enemies and stuff. It is a good kind of hard mode. Doesn't really feel cheap. It's just like more difficult. Keeps testing me. So that's fun. The styles also kind of are their own little sort of difficulty level. Like there's a bunch of trade-offs in there. And so like some of them actually like give you a bit of an advantage. But then like you can kind of challenge yourself by picking one of the more difficult styles if you feel like you want to get more out of the game. So I've been really digging it. I like that game a lot. I'm getting close to I've put 15 hours into it. I would like to beat hard mode, but I might not. But it was definitely worth my $3. And yeah, it's kind of exciting because this game is from this young Japanese designer. It's like his first game, basically. He spent a year and a half. He got Game Maker and decided to become a game designer, and this is the first thing he's done.
That bodes well.
Yeah, so that's cool.
Oh,
Cara Ellison wrote an article about him and helped him get his deal with Devolver Digital.
Kyle who?
Cara Ellison.
Cara Ellison.
Cara Ellison. Yeah.
I don't think her name's Kara.
Sorry.
It's what is she? Superman's sister?
I was thinking about Lara Croft, and it's spelled the same.
Yeah, Kara. Going Lara or Laura. It's
Lara.
It's Lara Croft. It's just Lara Croft. I don't know why we're getting this crazy with this stuff.
Lauren.
Whatever. Cara Ellison.
It's just batshit insane.
It's so crazy.
Did you hear that, Chris?
Oh, I heard it. I'm just done with you for tonight.
Why is this cop car not leaving? It's an ambulance. It has to be an ambulance.
Is your house on fire?
It's an ambulance, I'm pretty sure.
Do you need Batman?
Are you okay?
Do you need Batman, Ben? Because clearly you should be playing that game. Anyway, Christopher Compton
I play it if it worked.
Yeah,
it does.
It does work on Chris's PC.
Yeah, if you have a beast PC, it works.
Yeah, Christopher Compton is playing Batman Arkham Knight after I shelved it, and I guess I got to go back to it. Christopher, actually, yeah, this might actually dictate whether or not I actually make it a priority to finish that game this year. Are you enjoying Batman Arkham Knight?
Yes, I shelved it too because it came out around the same time Witcher 3. Yeah, a month.
But
twice
as broken.
Right, and it released broken because I got it on PC. There was what's GOG stand for again?
Good old games.
Good old games. Had like a deal where I got it 50% off or something at launch, or 40% off. It was some crazy amount. I got it for like $36 at launch, which is absurd. So it's like, of course, I just got my new PC this year. It's running like a monster.
Like, yeah, video games run at real frame rates on that system.
Yeah, if I can pull fucking over 60 frames per second on Witcher 3, of course I can do it on Batman. And then it was broken.
Yeah, you had to go into INI files just to fucking do...
Just to get it... Wasn't it locked at 30 frames per second?
Yeah, it was locked at 30 frames. Which
like, unreal. What are you talking about? On the PC, locked at 30 frames per second.
What is this? What are we, console gamers now?
So yeah, they pulled it, and I left it on, and basically it was just an excuse for me not to play another open world game after I just beat an open world game, which I was totally fine with, because I loved
Witcher. Fan of Arkham City.
Huge fan of Arkham City. I loved Witcher 3, so I was like, do I really want to like follow it up with this? And then it made the decision for me by being broken as fuck. But I was still excited for it, except that in the months between it being broken and it not being fixed but being playable.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing people forget. Like, we had just gotten done with Bloodborne as well. So
yeah,
like that was a string of months where, and because I remember talking about this when he was gassing up Monster Hunter 4, was this year's already started off with way too many long games already, because these games are lengthy. Like we were thinking, you know what I mean? So, it was
Monster Hunter fed into Bloodborne, fed into Witcher, fed into Batman, fed into Metal Gear Solid.
Well, there was a gap between Arkham and Metal Gear. And
there was.
That gap was extended when Arkham Knight was broken.
Exactly. Yeah. That's actually when I got into the Rare Replay collection, because I didn't have anything to follow it up with.
Meaty game.
Yeah. So I took a break. I was still very excited for it, because, yeah, as Goggin said, Arkham City, one of my favorite games of last generation.
Arkham Asylum is a very good game.
Also very amazing. Like, that was such a dark horse. The definition of a dark horse.
Yeah, it was like the game where everyone kept doubting it. It kept looking good, but everybody was like, no, Batman games suck.
Yeah, Batman games are terrible. It's like a weird August release.
Yeah, Rocksteady, they made Urban Chaos. That game is a 7.1. That's well below. No. And
I did like that game, but yeah, it was a first-person shooter.
It was a first-person shooter. First-person shooter devs don't know anything about Batman. And then, the rest is...
Arkham Asylum was great. But yeah, so Arkham Knight, even on the consoles where it worked properly, people weren't over the moon about it by any stretch of the imagination.
Of the things Phil called, that Batmobile being ridiculous was definitely one he got 100% right.
Yes, because now I played the game, and while I don't think the Batmobile is necessarily like a stake in the game's heart, or like...
Arkham Knight is not as bad as Phil thinks it is.
No, it's not.
Few things could be as bad as Phil thinks Arkham Knight is.
Not that. It's not like...
Time out. I'm going to defend Phil here. Phil likes a lot of aspects about Arkham Knight, because there are so many things about Arkham Knight that are likable. When Arkham Knight fucks, its lows are just too low.
Yeah, here's the problem, is they really bet that game's success on the...
They bet the farm on that Batmobile. They understood that they made the Batman-ass of all Batman games with Arkham City, and it was either make more of that or they needed to come up with something. And I'm telling you, there must have been like a brainstorming session where they were dry and they ended up at Batmobile. Like, that's all they could come up with.
Because here's the thing, though. I'm not going to totally defend the Batmobile, but I'm also not going to say it's the worst thing that ever happened to that series or anything. The boss battle is still the worst thing that happened to that series. Because there are some ideas, particularly with the Riddler trophies and some of the puzzles relating to the Batmobile, that I think work. And that's how the Batmobile should have been used, in those short bursts. Yes. The problem is they shoehorn that fucking thing into so many things that it did not need to be a part of.
Platforming with the Batmobile.
Like, why? Why do I need to be driving across rooftops with the Batmobile? Because, I mean, not to get, like, this whole Ludo narrative Disco Biscuits conversation as always, but when you're talking about a Cape Crusader whose, like, main moral is don't kill people, and you are running a Batmobile into people...
With guns?
with guns and cannons and like it's so jarring.
Yeah. I want to know what non-lethal missiles Batman was able to buy. That
Seriously.
cause
No,
explosions.
he only uses them on robot tanks.
Yeah. So, like, and then that's the other thing. The villain, given who he is, decides that the tanks I'm gonna have are gonna have not people in them.
Yeah.
Like, of all the things.
Like, if he's going to break the Batman,
Yeah.
put people in, and then he can't shoot them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's really strange. And, like, when you hit someone, they just bounce off of them because there's an electric shock goes through them. And I was like, you're still going 90 miles an hour. That guy's dead. I don't care if you bounce off. Like, it's so absurd. Anyways.
His arms are mush.
But also, this is a weird thing. I don't think that Batmobile controls the way you initially think it's going to control. But it feels right. Like, they nailed the game feel there.
Actually, yeah, I was expecting it to drive like a tank, and it doesn't. Especially when you go into combat mode, that thing has really good handling. Even in normal driving mode, it has decent handling. The only time it's a little wanky is when you have to like chase someone, and they're whipping around corners, and you can't whip around corners that fast.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you think like, if Rocksteady made a car combat game, they might not actually be bad at it.
Yeah, because there's moments when you have to like dash over and knock people aside that it feels a little burnouty.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, I liked. I like that part.
Like, they added driving
Well, that's
segments to an action game, and it's like, they're actually enjoyable because controlling this vehicle is fun, and because you don't give a fuck, because Batman can't kill anything, it's
Quote unquote.
enjoyable to drive that thing around.
All of the core mechanics in that game are still so solid. That's not the fault of the game. It's not like the biggest problem is they just kind of ran out of ideas, I think. Because even like, remember, one of my you weren't, even when you actually went back and played them, you weren't that hot on the side missions in City.
I feel that people remember it's the Witcher 3 thing, where, except not as good as the Witcher 3, in that the Witcher 3 is actually using some really boring quests, but you forgive it because the story part is so interesting, right? I feel people remember the Rogues Gallery part of Arkham City, and not the part where Hush is basically like, I'll see you in the sequel! And that's stupid. And Azrael is there, and his whole thing ends with, there's a sequel that's gonna happen! Right? Like, the Deadshot and the Mad Hatter ones are fucking rad.
Yeah, I like
the Mad Hatter one is the best one.
Yeah, Mad Hatter. But here's my problem with Arkham Knight. My actual biggest problem, bigger than the Batmobile, because I don't have huge problem with the Batmobile, is that now you have these side missions, and a large amount of them are bereft of the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah,
like some of these.
work.
Yeah, it's like eliminate watchtowers, defuse bombs in the road, eliminate roadblocks, destroy APCs.
It became an Ubisoft game.
They Ubisoft it. So, like, that's the number one thing that kept going through my head.
It was like, the things you were doing weren't necessarily my problem with Arkham City, although they were limited and like because you were just scanning things, right? It's just when they needed to make the payoff in Arkham City, they ruined two of them by virtue of the fact that it's basically a cliffhanger, more or less. Mm-hmm. Whereas they added more meaty gameplay in the sense that there's more to it than just scanning and waiting a bit, but it's banal, brainless bitch work.
Yeah, and like, to my knowledge, because I'm 60% at the stat screen, 60% of the overall game, not just the main story. None of those things like eliminate watchtowers, to my knowledge, culminate in any sort of boss battle or creative narrative purpose, other than it's just easier to traverse around Gotham. So, like, it's not even, you get to that cliffhanger, you see that, like, that arch villain in person. It's just, okay, now those things don't exist anymore. And it's like, okay, cool. And even the side missions that do relate to some sort of arch villain are kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Like Two-Face is robbing banks?
Yeah, because, like, Two-Face and Penguin, sure, even they make repeat appearances, but, like, Firefly, Professor Pig. Do people even know these?
Hey, whoa, Professor Pig! You don't like that quest?
Like, but do you know him?
That is irrelevant. Well, first of all, his thing was grim as shit.
Yeah, no, his thing was pretty gross.
Yeah, like that was actually cool. I mean, like, whether or not he's known, I think that is being a little superficial, because I like Man-Bat. Who cares?
Yeah, Man-Bat.
But the thing they do at Man-Bat is actually pretty, like, they handle it with a level of respect that Man-Bat doesn't deserve that level of respect. And they gave him that, and it's actually kind of rad.
But I guess Professor Fig is superficial.
Like, you want to hear, have you gotten up to Deathstroke yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, I don't... Okay, so no, fuck this. No, Deathstroke is one of the biggest badasses in DC fiction. I can't think of 4 people that I realistically think are more badass than him in terms of that lore. Batman would be one, probably, and then after that... No, I'm drawing blanks. No, Deathstroke's a badass. The man has a sword.
It's hard to find.
He's... You know, when they had to get an actor for him for the Green Arrow TV show, they got Manu Bennett, who has one of the coolest voices, like instant, like, don't fuck with this guy voice, right? Instead of like a full-on fist-on-fist fight with the dude, they came up with a Batmobile sequence for him. Bruh. Like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, I didn't think the Deathstroke fight in Arkham Origins was amazing as a boss fight, but it was what I would want from a Deathstroke sequence. Like, no, this is, like, you can't do the Mr. Freeze thing with Deathstroke because it doesn't work. Because if you're hiding from Deathstroke, Batman's not a pussy.
Yeah, the reason you couldn't is because Mr. Freeze would freeze you. Yeah.
But, like, Deathstroke and Batman should be having, like, there should be a volcano in the background. They need to do the whole sensei thing and bow to each other. Like, it's gotta be, like, sick. No, you ever watch the Batman animated series? He fights, like, a samurai with like, he goes to go meet his master. It's crazy. You never seen that?
I think this Batman's a little bit more serious.
Lame, clearly.
But the things I do really like about it, like, whatever, Batman doesn't have the greatest stories, but I like the deteriorating mental state, I think, is something that actually works.
The stuff between him and Joker is so good. Speaking of which...
Yeah, like, if
the way... No. The way he puts Nolan North and Troy Baker on blast. Because, listen, I like North. I thought he was fine as Penguin in Arkham City. His Penguin in Arkham Knight has to have the fakest accent you can possibly get next to Troy Baker's British accent in Shadow of Mordor. And the Joker has this one scene, and he's making fun of him using the same accent. He's like, do you believe that? Like, clearly faking it. I'm like, thank you, Mark Hamill. Thank you.
I really like that stuff. Because if they're going to bring him back, might as well.
The game has jump scares.
And Man-Bat scared me when he was introduced. And Joker did it too.
Yeah. They just do really cool stuff with the Joker. Like, you'll have a sequence where you're talking to him and he's talking, and then you turn around and he's no longer there, and it's not a cutscene when it happens. It's like, that's kind of fucking rad.
Dude, there's even subtle things in the environment. Like, the posters on the buildings will start to change throughout the game to reflect, like, Jokerisms. Like, sometimes it'll be like a boy or a guy and a girl, like, kissing, and then you'll, like, out of the corner of your eye, you'll see it turn into, like, Joker strangling someone or something like that. I really like the distorted reality that they play with.
It's that part of the story works because Rocksteady's always been good at Batman and Joker. I remember talking about this with William. I was like, is it just ridiculously hard to make a bad Batman and Joker story? Because it seems like anyone can do it all of a sudden.
Rocksteady.
Because I'm starting to think, because like it makes sense on some level. Because I feel like I can't think of too many Lex Luthor and Superman stories, at least in comics and cartoons, that are bad. Because he's the perfect foil for Superman.
Right.
And it works that way. And I feel like the Joker is absolutely like he's the Batman foil. Right? Like you could argue about whichever villain you feel is more impressive. But the one that defines Batman in so many ways is the Joker.
And they do play on that Batman's kind of... And that actually is kind of a little indicative of the game itself, is it's a little aimless without him.
Yeah.
Like, even, I like the main villain is Scarecrow, absolutely, and you're trying to stop this whole scheme of his, but I feel like for large portions, it stops being about that.
Yeah, no, I don't buy Scarecrow. They do such a poor job of building him up as a threat. because he just takes like a vacation.
Yeah, like he's been gone for
Yeah.
a huge portion, the portion of the game that I'm at now.
Do
Like,
you know who the Arkham Knight is?
no, and don't spoil it. I have a pretty good clue. I have a pretty good clue, but I just want to be sure.
I can't believe Superman would troll him like that.
Yeah.
Don't be psycho.
Speaking of which, they name drop Superman.
They name drop Lex Luthor. He's actually on your answering machine. If you play your answering machine, Lex Luthor's on it.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if Rocksteady did a Superman game, but that's because I'm a Superman fanboy.
Fucking Arkham Knight.
No, the thing about Arkham Knight is, though, like, I don't think it's a bad game.
No.
It's not.
No. I'm not talking about the character.
Oh, the Arkham Knight. Yeah.
I'll get there.
It's just, like, take the combat, for instance. That is feeling the right kind of right when you're beating up dudes in that game.
Oh, yeah.
It feels, like, they made it easier in the way that sometimes
The
I
fear
feel
takedowns.
like, yeah, not even the fear takedown. Sometimes I feel like the countering windows are so large, and sometimes the strike windows are so, like, even on hard, I knew certain instances where I should have gotten hit. I was like, okay, Batman is just gonna wreck this shit, right?
Dude, he can just mentally will his way over fear toxin. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, no, Batman's got the greatest plot armor ever. I'm sorry, the Titan virus doesn't work on me because I'm Batman.
Yeah,
it's like, what? I totally forgot that was a thing in Arkham
He just
Asylum.
flexed and it went away.
Anyway, but like the combat feels so fucking good.
Even
right?
the combat feels great. The rooms that they built where you have to do silent stuff.
Part of
Now,
it.
because all of they've given you so many more gadgets and ways to tweet. Like, I like that you can sabotage things and set up all these distractions. More ways for the people to start freaking out. Like the core, as you said, the core gameplay mechanics still on point. And I feel like they added some new really great ideas to that stuff.
Yeah.
But this is an open world game.
Yeah.
And they're
That
starting to fill
compromise it. Yeah. Whereas Arkham City was Legend of Zelda.
There's dungeons.
Arkham Knight is totally Grand Theft Auto and Assassin's Creed. Oh no, Assassin's Creed, and that's the wrong way to go about it. My thing with it is, we've gotten so many games with Arkham combat, and I diss it for all the things that Arkham also does. But I think the bigger thing is, like, when I was playing Arkham Knight, I was like, the reason why this is good is because no one's on Rocksteady's level when it comes to doing this combat and making it work. Because it goes beyond just the fact that it makes sense with Batman. They add so many more mechanics to their combat system, right?
Yep.
That you just have more to do. Like, it's not Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, but it doesn't need to be because the game feel is fantastic. It feels right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Shadow Mordor felt good, but I didn't think it felt... Like, Sleeping Dogs, I think, has, like, those really good, like, meaty sound effects. But if I'm arguing if he feels as, like, say, quick and fluid as the Arkham combat, I don't think so. Not at all. I think he's stiffer. I think he's got all these kung fu moves. And, you know, you could say they're gamier than Arkham's system, necessarily. Like, there might be a little bit more to it, but... If you ask me which game has better combat, I'm telling you 10 times out of 10, it's the Arkham games. I don't care what kung fu shit Wei fucking Shen can do. And the way Wei fucking Shen plays in Sleeping Dogs, you would think he'd beat Batman's ass.
Right.
Because Wei fucking Shen's a badass in that game. But
There's some limb breaking and shit goes on.
he destroys people's fucking kneecaps.
Yes.
Anyway, so like
I love that move.
felt so good, and the story has never been that great in the Arkham games, but it's made worse here for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, the dialogue is so bad in some cases.
Oh, it's bad.
Like, at one point, he tells Poison Ivy, I'm going to destroy all the plants in Gotham. And I'm like, really, Batman? All the plants in Gotham?
He says that. Yeah, I forgot.
Yo, he says that twice in the game. They thought that line was good enough to do twice.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, cheesy throwaway lines. Well, they should be cheesy throwaway lines, but they're, like, centerpiece lines.
Yeah.
That are
the
just
thing is...
kind of gross.
And then there are points in that story where I'm on board. Like, when Gordon is giving Batman some
hell.
shit.
Yeah.
And it's, like, so long overdue because Gordon, as a parent, should be bothered by everything that happened to Barbara. Because that is on Bruce. Like, that is totally on Bruce.
And it's Jonathan Banks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, really good voice actor.
Yeah. And
but what I do like.
Listen. I love Kevin Conroy. Please retire. I don't
Man.
want to get to a point. Listen, I can't say these words, but
Okay,
Kevin Conroy is not one of the better voice actors in the game, and he's in a game where I'm sick of at least 2 of the voice actors showing up in my games. And they're good voice actors, I just don't want to hear them anymore.
Sometimes he does menacing really well, but his monotone is like the funniest thing.
It's jarring.
Yeah.
It's just too... And I was watching Justice League because I've been sick the last couple days. And I'm like, there's no dialogue exchange in this where he sounds awkward.
Yeah.
What happened between Justice League and today? He got older, but...
He's just bored, I guess.
Yeah,
but I do like the fact that they are definitely playing with this.
I would want to see Troy Baker as Batman.
You want to see Troy Baker? He has the gruff. He has that.
I think he could do Batman in an interesting way, because...
What if he played both Batman and the Joker?
I don't like the fact... Well, then I want his own version of a Joker. I don't want him doing Mark Hamill. Anyone doing Mark Hamill does a poor Mark Hamill, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying? Like... It's funny when regular people do it, but it's like someone's doing Mark Hamill. Why would I want? No, I want the real thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
the reason, to Mark Hamill.
Yeah, exactly. Like Troy Baker's a good enough voice actor. I want to hear his impression of things. The things I'm tired about Troy Baker is that I keep hearing Troy Baker's A voice in all my games. And it's like,
kanji voice.
By the way, his kanji voice. And it's like, Troy Baker played a relatively okay Southern dude, so maybe we can try other things with this guy. Don't make Revolver Ocelot Southern, though, because that's stupid, especially when Troy Baker is not sticking with that accent the entire game.
Sometimes he just does his kanji.
Yeah, sometimes he just decides to do regular Troy Baker voice and just phoned it in. I was like, what did no one pick up on this? Anyway.
That's Southern. They're like Japanese. They don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
They're like Japanese. They don't know.
They think, that's Southern.
The point is, I wouldn't mind hearing a new Batman, because if Kevin Conroy is this tired... Although Kevin Conroy did say he wants to be part of the Killing Joke animated movie, which, you know... Because Mark Hamill wants to do that one as well, so it's like, no, I need Batman and Joker there.
And then they should just gracefully bow out.
Yes, bow out after that, because, listen, it pains me to say this about Kevin Conroy. He is my Batman. I don't want to see Batman retire, but Batman's got to retire. It is what it is. Father Time eventually wins.
Well, he's done with Knight, and then he can do Killing Joke, and then it's over. Yeah. What else can you cover as Batman? Those are the biggest.
Well, anyway, what were your last few things you were going to say about Arkham Knight? Or...
Oh, I like that it does, as silly as the story can get, it does feel like the end of something.
Yeah.
Like, they do take some pretty big, can't take this back story moments.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, yep, we're on the last thing of a series here, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, no, the things that they do in the ending are...
not there yet.
I've eventually skipped to it. I was like, I want to see, because I was curious, right?
Yeah.
Because my problem with the story is once I knew exactly who the Arkham Knight was, and I just fucking groaned, was, so this story doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. We can talk... Well, we might do an Arkham Knight spoiler cast, I guess.
I'm almost done.
Yeah. But, like, when that moment happens, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of an interesting ending, but I don't agree with it on so many fucking levels, especially when it comes to Batman. But, yeah, it is ballsy what they do.
Right.
Like, of the things you cannot knock... The things you cannot knock Rocksteady for with Arkham Knight is that they didn't make Arkham City 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
they did try.
Considering on this podcast, every other week I'm dissing a sequel for being more of the same, I can't outright say, going with the Batmobile was a bad direction, although it was a bad direction. At the same time, like, you can't say they played it safe with the story, because the whole time you're thinking, yeah, Batman's never gonna die in the story. Except they killed a Joker in Arkham City.
Yeah, so...
So who knows what'll happen?
So
I love how they start that game too. Like right off the bat, it's like, nope, we're not taking.
Like, I was like, we're not taking this away. Like, yeah, when they bring him back, you're a little annoyed. Like they found a way to keep the Joker in it, but it's a spin that works.
Mm-hmm. It does work. I think it works
because when I think of the thing that would probably haunt Batman, it would absolutely be the Joker. Like, let me put it this way. He ends Arkham City. He doesn't take Talia al Ghul out of there. He carries the Joker because those two freaks
are together.
Need each other.
Yeah. No, it doesn't rise to the heights of Asylum or City, but I don't think it's like this travesty. I think if it was the first one, then I think it would be like a great starting point. But it's the last.
I don't think it would be a great game either way. It's hard to swallow because they were so good with Arkham Asylum City. You know what I mean?
It's the third act of the trilogy.
So it sounds like you're not going to go back and finish the game.
Oh, I'm gonna finish.
Okay. It does kind of feel like that. Batman Begins, like the Christopher Nolan movie, is Batman Arkham Asylum. Dark Knight is City, and then Dark Knight Rises is Batman Arkham Knight. The quality.
I like this because I'm not always against the people that say Arkham Asylum is the best, and I'm always one of the people that says I think Batman Begins is the better movie between it and Dark Knight.
But yeah, with a lot of trilogies, the last one's the one you kind of don't really need.
Yeah, it's the Metroid Prime 3 of the franchise. It's just that Metroid Prime 3 is not bad. It's just the first two were so much better.
Yeah, no, I definitely I would not say Batman Arkham Knight is a bad game. It's coming off of Asylum and City.
They're really the two essential ones.
Like it's disappointing because we've known they can do better, and the Batmobile is just such a frustrating thing to swallow the whole time.
Yeah, it does.
It's their solution to everything. Like, how's Batman gonna take down this guy? Batmobile. How's Batman gonna handle this? Batmobile. How's Batman gonna get this elevator up here? Batmobile. How's Batman gonna do his taxes? Batmo motherfucking Bile.
How did he survive before the Batmobile? Who knows?
Yeah, no, seriously. At one point, when I was driving the Batmobile up the side of a building off of a winch, I literally just took a screenshot. I was like, what am I doing in this game? What the fuck? But, I think especially, if you want to see how this series ends, definitely play it. You're not going to be slogging through it necessarily. Just maybe this time, whereas I was a huge proponent of play the side missions, maybe skip some of the side missions.
No, yeah, that's I agree.
But then you can't get the true ending.
The true ending isn't worth it.
I am going to get the true ending because
he's going to go to YouTube.
No, I 100% all the other ones. I'll 100% this one.
All right, go for it.
100%ing. Just like you shouldn't 100% Metal Gear Solid 5. Great game. You shouldn't 100% it. I saw the Bunny Hop video on what he did to 100% that shit. I'm like, get the fuck out.
It's most ridiculous.
Yeah,
at least in Batman Arkham Knight, it's all pretty easy stuff.
Yeah.
Just find trophies and stuff, not play the most ridiculous
game of Where's Waldo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. My thing with Arkham Knight is I just want to play it so when we get to the point where we're cutting games, when I was playing Arkham Knight, I didn't come out of it thinking, I was like, if the conversation between this game and Her Story comes up, I don't like Her Story enough to be like, no, I'm gonna discredit the game where I actually beat up dudes and it's actually fun.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was thinking that this year's really stacked. Batman, from what I heard, Arkham Knight wouldn't make my top 5, but I could see it making my top 5 for the year.
Well, we're doing a list of 10 games by the end of the year.
So maybe it makes 10.
Why can't that game be 10th? I understand that it's disappointing. I understand that they fell way below their bar.
But their bar was 1 or 2 every other year.
Yeah, their bar was good enough to be Game of the Years for their respective years. Arkham Asylum lost to Uncharted 2 in a year that also had Demon's Souls and Street Fighter 4. That wasn't a bad year for video games. Whatever. Neither is this year for video games, so I guess getting to 10th would be hard too, but, so, whatever. I do want to play it because I did bother going through Arkham Asylum and City this year, and I was so into them. And Batman's the shit, so,
Nice.
But, that'll do it as far as games we've been playing. I'm still trying to get through Dying Light, but good God.
Oh my god, I feel like you're doing that for 6 months.
I'm
probably
close
because
to
he
the
has-
ending, and I don't want to It's
Just get
not
there.
a bad game. It's a solid average game, though. Like, it's fine. It does certain things well. Does certain things not well. My thing is, like, of the zombie games, it's like, it's got parkour, and then the night stuff's a little daunting in the early going, but then it becomes easy, and you're like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, it's so vanilla as an open world game. I don't know. It's just, like, God, maybe because I wanted that game to be State of Decay, and that's stupid, but whatever. But State of Decay was cool. Go play that game, Towers, you piece of shit, since you won't play Wonderful 101. He finally gave me his reason for not playing that game. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes some sense. He's trying to get through these long games. He's like, you want me to play Wonderful 101 when I'm going to want to do the Bayonetta 2 thing where I beat it on multiple difficulties and do all the challenges? I'm like, yeah, I guess that's time consuming.
Yeah, that'll take it some time.
So,
Especially with, Wonderful 101's pretty long.
yeah. But it's harder to learn, too, than Bayonetta, I would argue.
Yeah.
Because it's just so different, and they do such a poor job teaching you. It's like really which is something I felt like was just going to be a Revengeance thing, but now it's like Platinum's thing. We're just going to not teach you our game. Which
Good kid.
maybe they need to stop doing that. Anyway. Ben's going to close us out with One's Gotta Go, but if you ever have any questions you'd like to throw at us, you can share them in the comment section of this page you're on while listening to this podcast at endlessbacklog.com, or you can join our forums, or you can send us an email at podcast@endlessbacklog.com, or you can hit me on Twitter, which is at GogginEB.
So we've set up the podcast at endlessbacklog.com.
Podcasts@endlessbacklog.com, yes.
So that's now good to go.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
All right.
And
So anyway, one's got to go.
One's gotta go.
So this theme is everyone's favorite genre, JRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. I don't like this already.
Yeah, I'm with Chris.
All right. So I'm going to give you three franchises. If you choose any of these franchises, all the games in that franchise will vanish.
Oh.
This is the hypothetical. Final Fantasy, Persona,
Oh my god.
or Pokemon.
Oh. Oh. What?
This is hard for Chris. This is the hardest one for Chris. I'm mad I didn't come up with this.
Holy shit.
Ben, do you have an answer, or do you want to wait on your answer?
I don't have an answer at this time.
This
Actually,
is a
I think I do have an
ridiculously
answer.
easy answer for me.
So, Will.
I'll let Will go first.
We'll let
Oh
Will go
my
first because he has the least
God.
investment in this, I guess.
He's gonna say Persona.
Well, yeah.
Yep, Persona.
So the thing with this one is, you can't get rid of
I can't-
Final
yeah.
Fantasy. You can't get rid of it.
I can't get rid of Pokemon either.
Yeah, but you can't get rid of the other one.
I know.
like Final Fantasy is too important of a JRPG. You change the entire landscape of that genre.
I can't get rid of Final Fantasy.
We're not
then I will
sure
have
Persona and Pokemon play the way they do without.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, you can't get rid of Pokemon because
That's what I mean. Like, if we
Shin-
play,
I couldn't get rid of Pokemon.
if we play this game the way it has to be played,
Yeah,
where-
like the idea is when this thing goes, its impact goes. Pokemon's battle system predates Shin Megami Tensei on some level, doesn't it?
No, Shin Megami Tensei is really old.
Oh, okay.
That was like on the,
so all
that was
right,
like on
then-
the SNES.
is it Persona or Shin Megami Tensei?
Well, no, because Persona's battle system is still dating back to Shin
It's
Megami
still-
Tensei.
okay.
So, like, the things that Pokemon influence in Persona is a non-issue for you. Okay.
It's just that my childhood would have this gaping hole
Yes,
with
your
it.
childhood misses a major.
Yeah, it's like,
major-
I don't know what my 10 or 11-year-old self looks like if I don't have Pokemon in my life.
That's the problem. Like, honestly, but yeah, playing this game properly, I can't, because I like Persona more
Wait,
than
you
I
said
like...
the video game series is out of the equation?
The video game series is gone.
Okay, then I got my answer.
Because
Okay.
if I take away Final Fantasy, Persona probably...
The answer is Pokemon for me. Because Pokemon still had a cartoon in the card game, which I would have played with my friends. The only thing I lose is
Well-
a video game. No. Because let's not... Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Do you think those things exist? The game doesn't exist?
Which came first?
The game.
The game came... Yeah.
Wait,
In
didn't-
Japan.
Are we?
Yes.
Didn't the manga come first?
Yeah, like the manga came first, Ben.
We have to do our
And
research.
whatever. The whole scenario does change because Nintendo is not the
And there's no
participant.
way. There's no way that cartoon comes over if the game doesn't exist.
No, the franchise began as a pair of video games for the original Game Boy.
Okay, then I guess that does.
And now spans video games, trading cards, and anime.
Damn. That was gonna be my get out of jail free card on that one. I was like, no,
I'm
that's
not letting you
fine.
off the hook, Goggin.
It's like, wait, no, the cartoon would still be fine. I still would have had Pokemon in my life. If anything, it would have saved me some time and money on these games. No, I'm gonna say Pokemon.
Still gonna say Pokemon?
It's gonna play a big part of my childhood, but if I'm being quite honest, Pokemon hasn't been worthy of its fucking spit since Pokemon Gold and Silver at this point. Because they've made the games quote-unquote better in the sense that they've added so much to the metagame that the multiplayer is great. But as I learned in the most frustrating way possible, they've created this super asshole system just to get to that game, right?
As you found
And then
out.
the single player game is... It's run out of excuses for why it's basically the same game over and over again.
Yes.
It's the same format. It's piss easy. Persona's got personality in spades. They added a story. Like, there's no story to Pokemon. Like, when they added your friends in Pokemon X and Y, I thought they were all terrible. Because they were just so childish and whatever. Those games are aimed at kids. But...
I think that's a good point in this. I know that we're talking about like history and legacy a lot of the time with this game, but like Persona and Final Fantasy, I feel still have the ability to evolve and to change, and they have a future. Whereas I feel Pokemon will never do that.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Always going to be that game I played when I was a kid.
You take Final Fantasy's impact out of gaming, you change JRPGs. You change video game marketing. Period. Because when I think of how modern marketing is, it's Final Fantasy VII. It goes back to that initial cinematic trailer that they played before a movie, in a movie theater no less, had billboards for this shit, and had all this other stuff to like gas that game up, right? Like Final Fantasy's impact is so impressive when you think about it, in the grand scheme of things. It's just, you say this all the time, but again, if anyone ever writes the book on the history of video games, Final Fantasy is a chapter you cannot skip. As popular as Pokemon is, as absolutely sure. What, Dragon Warrior is the one you're going with?
Well, I mean, like, that was also carrying the JRPG torch for ages.
But okay, so I'm asking you,
I think
what
that
does the PS1 generation look like without a Final
Fantasy
VII?
yeah. What if Square
What
doesn't
do JRPGs
exist?
look like without Final Fantasy? Are we really saying Dragon Warrior eventually leads to... Because here's the other thing. Without a Squaresoft, where's Chrono Trigger?
Well, I don't think... Are we saying Squaresoft wouldn't exist if Final Fantasy...
It's literally called Final Fantasy! That was the plan!
But that's not true. That's just an urban legend.
Oh, is it?
That's not actually... as nice as it sounds, it wasn't actually their Final Fantasy.
Oh.
Let's keep
Are
that
you
theme
sure,
going.
Ben?
Are you sure? That's a myth?
I'm pretty sure this is a myth.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this is a myth.
It's their Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I got really loud for that, because I was like, no, that's exactly the story behind this, man.
If we're saying, like, Squaresoft dies if you get rid of Final Fantasy, then that's a difference. Then, like, you really can't.
They were on the verge of bankruptcy.
Well, so here's my thing. Okay. Listen, of the three, Persona has the least influence. Like that's not even debatable. That's not even debatable.
Okay, yeah.
But
absolutely.
I will say this: I think Persona is a better game than.
Totally agreed.
Like, I don't think the only Final Fantasies I like more than Persona 3 and 4 are 6, 5, and then that's it, man. And then that's not a knock. I like Final Fantasy 9. 10 is a fun game. 7 is not a bad game. I just like calling it bad when Ojo's is on. Fuck, I don't even hate Final Fantasy 8 the way some of you do, but I really like Persona 3 and 4. And then Pokemon, again, like my thing with Pokemon is, who's been influenced by Pokemon? Yokai Watch? Monster Hunter? Digimon? I mean, maybe I'll miss out on Digimon, because that theme song was badass.
Didn't Digimon come first?
Did Digimon come first?
I don't know.
This is actually a really good one's gotta go now because we gotta do all these history lessons. But I don't agree with you that like Final Fantasy is something that can be like just washed away just because of how blatantly Final Fantasy has been ripped.
I mean, it definitely would change a lot,
JRPGs.
like the JRPG landscape, especially in the West.
Yeah, and I'm saying that Pokemon and Persona don't lay claim to that. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like
Pokemon
action
came
adventures.
first.
I think Pokemon still exists.
No. Let me put it this way.
Okay.
Ocarina of Time, like still would have been action adventure games. That we still would have 3D games today. Video games would exist without Ocarina of Time.
Mhm.
The way in which they would be made drastically changes. Right?
Yeah.
We assume that maybe somebody would have come to Z targeting, but when? And that when does matter. Like, let's say Z targeting doesn't happen until PS2 era. Think of how different gaming is in that case. Just that one, you change generations with that one mechanic, you change 3D games, period, right?
Yeah.
That's the way I'm arguing for Final Fantasy. Let's say JRPG still would have been a thing. Video games would have still been a thing. Squaresoft would be a thing. But we have no idea what that even looks like without Final Fantasy. I'm saying video games without Pokemon, as big of a hole as it would be, is not necessarily that big of a loss. Right? Because I can't think of another thing that really borrows from Pokemon like that.
I can't drive a dagger in my childhood like that.
I know. Well, so that's the annoying thing. Like, if that's
so,
where
like,
Persona...
I'm between Final Fantasy and Persona then.
Yeah, and I'm saying Final Fantasy's in that Mario Zelda camp of... Put Zelda up against Bayonetta and Ninja Gaiden. What do you think my favorite games are? Bayonetta and Ninja Gaiden. What do you think I'm cutting?
Bayonetta or Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, and it's like, because you can't get rid of Zelda. Like, what? The whole... Too much of this medium changes with that move.
I think I would have to get rid of Persona then.
Good
I was
choice.
about to say
Good
the
choice,
words
Ben.
Bayonetta, but...
That was the right decision.
So yeah, this is the weirdest part, is that Persona is the game I love the most of these three. But if like the game is, you need to take out one.
I have enough faith in my friends that my childhood would have still been fine without...
See, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that maybe just like we would have...
Like, yes, I understand it was such a big part of our childhood, but I
guess...
believe, like, we were kids, we would have been into whatever else was hot at the time. Like,
I guess we just would have played more street hockey.
yeah, I would have been out more often. I would have spent so much money on Pokemon cards. So if anything, I'm looking at this as a positive.
I wouldn't have got... The only time I ever got grounded in my whole life was because of Pokemon cards. Because I called my mom
Chris,
poor for not buying me some.
You called her poor, you're such a bitch.
I'm glad I named these games now.
So yeah, probably Pokemon's out. I guess I just would have got those
Nice
all
memories.
those stars in Super Mario World. Super Mario 64, I mean. I would have got all the stars instead of only half of them went back to Pokemon.
Pokemon was 1998, dude.
I mean, I don't know when he got in.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was playing at the same time.
But no, I like that one's gotta go. I think.
Yeah, that was really hard. That was really...
Because in Chris's case, Persona is something he can't get rid of now.
Yeah. No,
I do kind of wonder, like, what the RPG world looks like in a world without Final Fantasy.
Especially because my choice is made on the fact that Persona is, of those three, the most relevant to my gaming life right now.
Yeah, like don't look at that as like completely positive. For all we know, certain things could have been better without everyone aping Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. But at the same time, like, that's the thing. You take Final Fantasy out, there's a giant unknown there.
No Spirits Within, though.
Okay. You're right.
Great movie loss.
Listen, if
so
we're
maybe
arguing...
Square never merges with Enix.
Yeah, but like I said, what does Chrono Trigger look like without Final Fantasy?
Persona probably...
What was Chrono Trigger, 1992?
No, Chrono Trigger was like 94, 95.
I think it's 94, yeah.
Yeah, so that's 1994. The original Final Fantasy is 80...
89, I think. Let me check.
I'm Googling it right now.
You still have Yuji Horii working on that.
I just
Final
looked at it.
Fantasy 1 is 1987.
Yes.
In Japan.
So you're in Japan. Well, yeah, but that's back then Japan was that important of a market. Nowadays it's like who cares? It's cold blooded, but let's be real. But like think about that for a second. 1987. What does Chrono Trigger look like 7 years later? No Final Fantasy has ever existed.
Chrono Trigger doesn't exist because Square declares bankruptcy.
William's gonna stick to the urban legend.
That is
I'm
not
looking
an
at
urban legend.
Wikipedia right
They
now.
were on the verge of bankruptcy. You can debate whether or not they would have survived bankruptcy, but they were on the verge of bankruptcy before that game came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like every time I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
according
definitely.
to the game's composer, the title was later changed to Final Fantasy as the game was thought to be the company's final project under the threat of bankruptcy. So also explain the new title stemmed from his personal situation. If the game not sold well, he would have quit the game. Sakaguchi would have quit the game industry if that game sucked.
Yep, he thought it was going to be
Yeah,
the
you
last
read
thing
the
he would
Skype
work
call,
on.
Ben! Ben got dropped, which really sucks now, because now I'm worried if the single will actually save.
Oh my god, not again.
But no, this was episode 67 of the Endless Backlog podcast. What would you get rid of if you had to pick between Final Fantasy, your childhood, and Persona? That's literally what the question he asked.
This will haunt me forever because I still don't know if I made the right choice.
Yeah.
What did
Life
you
is
pick?
strange.
Final Fantasy?
Pokemon. No, Final
Oh.
Fantasy was the only safe one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
to me, it's another scenario. Is like, if you ask me what the best... I mean...
We looked it up, Ben. You were wrong.
Yeah, no way. No way. That scenario is too ridiculous. Anyway, that was episode 67. Check us out at endlessbacklog.com. Subscribe to us on Stitcher, iTunes. Check out my buddies at GameUnder.net. We're out.
Peace.